Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a brand new live episode of the Outlaw Nation Show here on in the Outlaw Nation Studios, live from Beverly Hills, California. Dun, 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 dun. Look, everyone, it's been a nutty week. It's been an insane week. It's been a crazy week. It's been a trying week. It's been a stressful week. It's been a tough week for a lot of us. A lot of us who have been there, a lot of us who've seen this happen in our world. A lot of us who have friends who've been out there protesting and marching, and maybe even some of us who have friends who've been hurt by some of the altercations and the clashes that have happened all around this country and the marches that are happening around the world as well. So I hope all of you are watching me here are safe and you're sound and you're healthy and you're okay. But this is going to be a Outlaw Nation episode in the truest sense of the words, Outlaw Nation. I have my guest tonight. My guest is going to be telling you her honest truth, as she always does. I mentioned to a couple of people I was bringing her on and that she's probably going to rage at the machine, and both of them said that's what she does best. She is the best at raging at the machine because she has so much information at her fingertips, and she really cares. And I'm going to be excited to introduce her in just a second. But first, some Outlaw Nation business. Thank you all so much for joining me here live. Please remember to subscribe to the channel right below you, or to follow me on my social media there. Being as outspoken as I was this week, I ended up losing about 100 followers on Twitter and about 50 subscribers on YouTube, and some patrons as well. But that's the price you pay for standing out and making sure you stand for something. And I felt it was the right time to stand for something. So, it's the price you pay, but eventually that'll snap back as well, and I don't mind. And we were hesitating to do some content this week on the Outlaw Nation, but we have dropped some stuff. The new Geek Buddies show dropped today. Michael Vogel, Shannon McClung, and I had an interesting conversation about representation in geek culture and how important it is, and how this Black Lives Matter movement has been coming for quite some time. And it isn't just about, what's happening with George Floyd and the representation of the Black Lives Matter with the police confrontations and the police brutality that sometimes happens at the hands of young black men and women, or black men and women, period, regardless of age. We were talking about how Black Lives Matter means more than just that. It's about crossing the entire spectrum and making sure full representation is happening in all kinds of content. So that was something we talked about on Geek Buddies. We didn't do Mornings with the Outlaw yesterday. I don't know if we'll do a Mornings with the Outlaw tomorrow. Depends on how I feel later on this evening and how Alex feels, my co-host Alex Shawshak. But I hope a lot of you, speaking of Alex Shawshak, were able to be part of that stream last night with the Call to Action people, with the Finstock Initiative podcast, that co-podcast there last night. That stream raised $2,000. They are going to donate to the Black Lives Matter charity. Of course, what we did over there at SEN, what Christian did the other day, incredible stuff he did as well. So all of that is out there. Tomorrow, I have a live episode of Strong Style with Aaron Turner and I talking about some wrestling news, and we will also donate any of the proceeds there to anything going on, any of the organizations that Winston Marshall feels is best for Black Lives Matter. He seems to be our point person for all of that. So incredible stuff happening here, and I hope all of you are doing your best to get through this week. But without further ado, let us have some fun tonight and let us howl at the moon. Let us rage at the machine. Let us talk about horror. Let us relive the old glory days of Collider Live with one of the greatest people that I have had the pleasure to get to know in this world. We have had many a conversation as to Latinos and Latinas having our talks about life, about the world. We're both old school activists who have been on the front lines at times, have been down in the trenches, have fought for causes, have donated to causes, and have been there before. And of course, we're also massive geeks and nerds who love our certain franchises, and also have very strong opinions about movies and TV shows and about the world. Her name is Dorina Arellano. She's a bilingual, bicultural nerd. She used to work for Google, hosting Google Talks there. She's interviewed so many incredible people across the spectrum of DC Comics and Marvel Comics. She's done so much of the music industry as well, managing a number of acts through her life. And of course, you all know her as a host, a critic, a pundit over there at Collider Live and numerous other places across this sphere. I think we're in for one hell of a show, and I can't wait to get it started. And don't forget, we have the Streamlabs and the Super Chats open, and we'll have Wiley on in a little bit to tell you how you can come in live and ask your questions live of me and Dorina. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dorina Arellano to the Outlaw Nation Show. How are you, Dorina? What's going on? Oh, is your audio's out. I can't hear you. Did you choose something else?
Is that better?
There we go. All right, good to go.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to take my headphones off then. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm not home. So yes. I'm somewhere else escaping the world trying to help. And I don't have the technology. So this is all I have right now. But thank you for having me. I am pissed and exhausted, but we need to talk about what's going on. So yeah, hello everyone.
It's been a while since we've seen each other, you and I. So I'm excited to have you on the show. I'm excited to catch up with you. We've talked sporadically since the end of Collider Live and all that debacle that happened afterwards when a few of us were laid off at Collider, and of course you left willingly from Collider. So there was a lot of stuff. I didn't know what was the situation and all this stuff, but when I saw you recently again, I was happy to see you and happy to see that you were doing your own thing, and as always, kind of marching to your own beat in your life. And this week, because I know you're a person that takes things very deeply to heart, this week must have been an incredibly trying, emotionally draining week for you as you saw the protests and the clashes and the misinformation and the narrative spinning going on in the world right now.
Yes, exactly. See, this is why I miss doing shows with you. You're so freaking well-spoken, John Rocha. I love you're so good at this shit.
You're very good.
No, exactly what you said, man. I don't think I slept for 4 nights straight,
Wow.
starting Saturday, because of so much going on. And on top of, being in LA in an area where right now I'm not there.
Yeah.
So it's quiet here, but it's the first day of peace and quiet that I personally had, because if you're in LA in certain areas, like the main areas, there is nonstop helicopters, nonstop sirens, nonstop, scary noises like gunshots, and you don't know what it is. I feel like I'm back home in Mexico. And it's been hard to deal with that while trying to help, and doing several things with other activists in different ways, whether it's spreading what's it called, how to donate, but the biggest thing for me that I've seen is how much misinformation's been happening, and that's been really frustrating. So imagine being exhausted listening to all this crap going on outside while you talk to your family and friends and they have no idea what's going on in the country. It's terrifying.
Have you been out there?
And I think I texted you on Monday too, right? And you
Tuesday morning you texted me. And you were like, the world's falling apart. I don't know what's happening. I can't get through to people. And then I was like, what is going on? And I was going to text back and then got distracted. And then later on, you sent me another text kind of like, sorry about that. I had to kind of, but I'm always like, hey, look, any text I get from Dorina is always like, I always know where your heart is. So I always take it in the best way. I know your drive is to communicate, to connect, to fight the good fight, to make sure people understand what's actually happening in the world, and to at times light that fire under some people's asses to get involved. And I texted you because that's the other exhausting part, is I've been talking to so many people, right? You guys know, I know too many people, right? My network is huge. It's I know people from back home in my first country, and here, my network is huge with friends and family and acquaintances and all kinds of the entertainment industry, the tech industry, and it's a lot. And the reason I contacted you is because I know that you're the same, you have the same heart I do, and you also are very experienced. You're obviously a veteran, Mhm.
You know a lot that we don't know, that you've experienced a lot that it makes me. By the way, if we're going to be talking to 2 hours, I might at some point cry out of rage, because I've been talking to my veteran friends, right? My Black veteran friends, and I really want to talk to you about how you guys feel about what's going on, because you guys fought for you fought for our country, and now to see our country's freedom being stripped out, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's been weird. Certainly over the week. I mean, weird's not even a big enough word to cover it. But over the weekend, it was just happenstance that my girlfriend and I were out of town for her sister's birthday. So all that stuff that happened on Melrose and at Pan Pacific Park, and then eventually marching through Beverly Hills, I was not actually in the city for. I think if I had been in the city, I would have been at Pan Pacific Park. I have marched before in LA numerous times. I've been at protests for any number of things here in LA. And I knew it was going to be a peaceful Pan Pacific Park is not a place you go and cause a ruckus. It's a very peaceful place. Unless you're playing on the basketball courts and get a little hairy, but most of all, it's a peaceful place. So I thought it was right by the Grove, which is a very, a place that people go to for shopping and what have you. So I just thought myself personally that it was going to be a peaceful protest. And then seeing what happened afterwards, and seeing the looting and the rioting and the fights and the clashes and the burning cop cars, and seeing people my friends who were there saying, we weren't causing the damage. There were these outside people who came in and set stuff on fire, set 3 police cars on fire. There was a lot of suspicious activity going on, and it seems to be happening at all of these protests, some really strong, suspicious activity on both sides here, that you're wondering what is happening, who is trying to control the narrative, and what is the truth and what isn't the truth. You talk about misinformation. I'm watching videos online of what in Boston, what looks like 2 police people putting stacks of boxes of bricks in certain locations. And then you see other video of people in Philadelphia, or cops in Philadelphia or New York, picking up boxes of bricks and taking away, claiming that other people have set them there so that protesters can come in and use those things. So it's crazy. And then you throw the military in, Dorina, and that is where I finally broke a little bit. On Tuesday was maybe the most depressed I've been about the situation, as I saw my brothers and sisters in arms in the military, even the National Guard, I consider that part of it, stepping out with their weapons to possibly confront these American citizens who are exercising their right to protest, and then watching them conduct exercises in the middle of roads in DC. I was just like, are we literally in a third world country now? And I just was so despondent. I'm glad no real big clashes have happened over the last 3 days, but that does not mean there isn't something bigger coming.
What do you
weekend.
mean you're glad big clashes haven't happened? They've been happening every night.
Well, I mean, the level to which they were happening on Monday and over the weekend, I haven't seen that level. Yes, we've seen.
You haven't seen it because they're not showing it to you.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
So that's the scary part, that it's crazy coming from the tech world and seeing how these streaming platforms work versus how mainstream media works has been interesting, because when I was a kid in Mexico, I knew that most newspapers and most anchors, you found the good ones, but most of them were it's basically propaganda, right? Because most people down there understand that a lot of the politicians are corrupt. They understand that a lot of cops are not to be trusted, right? I was stopped, when I was a teenager or a young adult in Mexico, and I would be stopped, and we would have to bribe them because we were scared, right? We would have to do crazy shit like that because you don't know, you can't trust people. And when I moved here as an adult, when I was 18 for college, and I started trusting cops, right? I started thinking, okay, this is I actually started to feel safe. So to see this happening is really scary, but I've seen it before. I lived 18 years of that. And so it doesn't surprise me that it breaks my heart that it's happening. But I feel like I'm telling people this, we have a person in power right now that doesn't care about being a good person. That we have a person in power right now that only cares about being in power.
Yeah.
And that's dictators are real. It's a scary thing. And a lot of us that cried on election day, I don't give a fuck about Hillary Clinton. Okay.
Yeah.
But I cried because I knew this could happen.
Right.
And that's the scary part. And so now seeing, every time you turn on Fox News, and in sometimes even CNN and MSNBC, they look like the people from They Live, right? It's like obey, consume. And it's so heartbreaking to see all these people talking very seriously, like they should be outraged if they were really, if they really cared about the people. And then the issue with, to circle back to the streaming platforms and, the YouTube space and Twitch and the social media platforms, especially, Facebook is pure propaganda. Yeah. Right. Facebook, it has started with algorithms in a binary concept where you put people in bubbles and like, that means that you're like these other people. And then if you dislike, that means like you're these other people. And so what happens with that is that you have all these different groups agreeing with each other all the time and rarely challenging each other, but looking to fight with the other side. Yeah. Right. And so that's a problem because people think that they're seeing real news, right? Just like anything they're seeing with their anchors, they think they're seeing real news because they trust their government, but we can no longer trust our government. Like that's the thing that people have to understand, and you have to educate yourself to know that everything you see on TV or on YouTube, that doesn't mean that it's honest. Yeah, right. It's formulated for whatever political agenda you may have.
Well, I mean, that's the way it's built, isn't it? The system is like I think what happens with people when they get interviewed, as you're saying, they're not reacting as if this is really happening. They're reacting way more calmer than they should be, is because instinctively underneath everything, we think as Americans, we have set up this system of checks and balances in the government that will stop a tyrant from taking over the country. That is the big thing that we've set up. However, what we're seeing is we have an administration that is getting a rubber stamp from the Senate for anything that it's doing. And Casey Hunt's trying to interview all those Republican senators as they went into a lunch to ask them if they saw Donald Trump trying to create that photo op by tear gassing those people out of the St. John's area there. And almost to a person, they all were like, I didn't see it. Didn't have time. I'm late for my lunch. I'll talk to somebody about it. They did not denounce it. They did not put it. The religious Archbishop denounced it. The priests who were tear gassed denounced it. And then I heard today they're not letting them hold a vigil there at the church because Trump feels it's going to be embarrassing for them to hold a vigil. It's embarrassing to him. And that's the thing at the end. And now they're putting up the black fence around the White House. And I don't understand.
Fucking pussy. Sorry.
Well, there you go. But I don't understand.
I'm not sorry. Fuck that guy. What?
There you go. Yeah, say your truth, Dorina. Say your truth. And this is the thing. I don't understand how rational thinking people can't see this as a sign of what he's doing and spinning it to make it seem like it's the protesters who are, I think is just beyond the pale, to be honest.
I mean, and that's the thing that people don't understand too, that there is so much footage of peaceful protests. Yes. Not just in LA, but all over the country. All over the world. All over the world. Yeah. It's insane to see that international news is covering so much of this. And Black Lives Matter it's a worldwide movement because there's so much oppression in the whole world. Like this is a human issue, right? And in the US, what's happening is that they're trying to politicize it.
Yes. Right.
And if people don't make the effort to educate themselves and talk to each other and research, what's outside of propaganda, we're not gonna get through this together, right? Like this is no longer a Democrats versus Republicans thing. This is a citizens versus a government that is oppressing them, right? And to see where are the people that were pissed about the Second Amendment not defending the First Amendment,
Right.
Because there's a ton of there's hundreds, thousands of people protesting peacefully. You know, I'll give you a specific example of what a day in LA has been this week.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, whatever. Everyone around me has been getting random emergency alerts.
Yep.
During the day.
Yep.
Of curfew. And curfew in Beverly Hills, 4 p.m. Curfew in Santa Monica, 2 p.m. Curfew in the LA County, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
This is after protesters are already out there and have no idea there's going to be curfews.
Right. Right.
And then what happens is, if you see the videos, because they're out there, right? The horrifying part is that you see all the content, like specifically on Hollywood Boulevard, seeing all those tanks and all that military headed towards the protesters when there's no looting happening.
Yeah.
It's all peaceful.
Yeah.
And then hearing about journalists getting arrested, and then hearing about they're
hearing it, watching it
exactly. Yeah.
You're seeing that. And there's, once again, it is this, one side of the political spectrum complained that they thought Obama was going to take their guns. There was I can't remember what the name of it is, but there was a name for their fear of Obama using the military against them, right? They were in fear for 8 years. The certain pocket they thought, but now that they have a president who thinks like they do, they don't seem to have a problem with the military coming into certain cities and essentially intimidating the protesters and possibly being ordered to commit violence. Watching them gas the people out of St. John's Church and seeing those National Guard guys right by the fence, just itching to shoot their rifles and their weapons at these American citizens who are fleeing for not their lives necessarily, but certainly fleeing for their health because they're being gassed and they can't breathe. And by the way, this is how you spread the coronavirus, gassing these people so they have to pull the mask down to spit out stuff or cough out phlegm. So your purpose, and then to turn around and have that Surgeon General who sold his soul, obviously, to be a part of this administration say, oh, well, we think the coronavirus, a second wave is going to come because of these protests. Not because you opening up the states too early, but because of these protests. Well, it wouldn't happen if you weren't gassing these people, having them cough and mucus all over the air, and then have some of these National Guard guys just sitting there itching to shoot, and it's just, it's frustrating all around. They're creating a situation on purpose to help a man get reelected because that gentleman, I use that loosely, was heading on his way to losing the election. Now he's turning this around to try to imitate Nixon in '68. And it's ridiculous. Yeah.
And, if you have it, there's just talking about our local elected officials.
Yeah.
Like Eric Garcetti is a crook. He's shown it. He's proved it. A lot of people knew already living in LA because of their own experiences with police, right? Like what's happened, the thing that I'm seeing that's happening now is that marginalized groups, and obviously the Black community, has been terrorized by the cops for decades, right? But it wasn't happening to other communities as much. And so now we are seeing cops in New York and military, like as you said, unfortunately, in Seattle, in Portland, in Los Angeles, mostly peaceful communities, that cops are dragging people out of their cars. People are just walking away from the protest and they're being literally dragged. Like there's a ton of videos of police brutality towards all kinds of people. Like soccer moms are getting tear gassed. So what's happening right now is the government is showing us, oh, you're trying to take our power away from the oppressed because the ruling class takes advantage of the oppressed in order for this capitalist system to work, right? So no, you're doing that now. So now we're going to show you who's boss, and we're going to show you that now we can oppress you too. So that's why it's a worldwide movement, because the entire world is watching and wants to support us and wants to support freedom and peace worldwide, and is sick of these asshole tyrants who don't care about anyone but themselves.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me from other countries to check in to see how I'm doing. checking in to say how heartbroken they are watching America go through this. And some of these people are reaching out to me from countries that have experienced this before in their past. Either they experienced it personally themselves or their parents have experienced it and spoken about it, you know? And so it's kind of mind blowing, to be honest with you. But Dorina is right. And for those of you who are listening, some of you may agree as well, or most of you may agree. When he got elected, those of us who understood history, understood what the potential for this man to destroy the very foundations of a democratic society, we understood this was in play the second he was elected. Everything you're seeing now was everything we've spoken about for 3 years or 3.5 years. We have either quietly or the drumbeat has gotten louder over the last couple of years for sure, as his more authoritarian impulses become the norm. And he has taken the playbook right out of a dictator's playbook. And it has been, people have been saying this for quite some time. This is the approach he's going to have. These are the moves he's going to make. And they're twisting the narratives, as you said. They're highlighting these looters and rioters. And by the way, I do not support looting at all. I think a lot of these mom and pop businesses or these businesses themselves are barely surviving COVID. To have this happen as well, I have no sympathy for the looters. Unless they're stealing food to live, to survive, I don't have any sympathy for the looters. The rioters, I don't know how many of them are coming to purposely attack and how many of them are being instigated, peaceful people being instigated by police action. And we've seen this. We've seen evidence of them all on their knees, hands up, and all of a sudden the police descend on them, and you don't know what just happened, you know?
Yeah, and nobody here is condoning violence. Nobody here is saying, "Oh yeah, like I'm glad, property got destroyed, or these businesses are suffering." Like nobody wants that, but that's a problem. Yeah. But the bigger problem currently, we have to fix all of those problems.
Yes.
But the bigger problem is that the Black community has been terrorized by these cops, as I said earlier, for a long time now. And we have to value human lives over property. We have to value human lives over buildings. Right. And the sad part is I'm glad you brought up the fact that this is all during a pandemic, right? Yep. So it's I personally think there is a race war and a class war happening. I don't want to use these like super hyperbole, like these words, but by race war I don't mean that it's like races are fighting each other. No, it's the oppressed and marginalized communities have had enough, and other people that are in more privileged positions that are actually good people are noticing what's happening, and they want to support these marginalized communities. So on top of that, we live in an extreme consumerist capitalist system. And that means that system is there to support the privilege, right? The people, think about how the government handled the pandemic when it first started. Right. They sent people $1,200. How long ago was that?
2 or 3 months ago.
Right. They sent people a check that didn't get there for months, and that's all that people have gotten. They think about how many people have lost their jobs and they're only getting health care through their employers because we have a situation that we shouldn't have, which is privatized healthcare, right? Where you have insurance if you have a job. And so think about how many people have been furloughed, fired. There's people dying and suffering from this pandemic, and they're receiving no government help, right? And this is something that has already been happening for a while, but now it's exacerbated by the pandemic. And so people are rightfully exhausted, angry, and because nobody's helping them. But then you see Congress and the Senate bailing out Wall Street again. They're bailing out they're not helping small businesses. Right? This spin that if you see whatever freaking Nazis talking on Fox News, And they're just talking about how, oh, and these poor small businesses that are getting looted by these rioters. I'm like, no, that's not what's happening. You don't care about small businesses. You work for Fox. You work for these big companies that pay you a ton of money to not inform the public. That's where the money's going.
Yeah,
it's not going to the little people.
I think that's true. And the stat came out a few days ago that people are losing their jobs left and right. The 40% unemployment or something like that, or 40 million new cases or 40 million new claims. And then the other side, you look at the fact that the top 1% of the richest people made $429 either million or $1 billion since the start of this pandemic. I mean, just think about that. And you had businesses with millions and millions of dollars applying for these loans and got shamed into returning these loans. It was shameful that they even thought that they should. And then they got shamed even more when they got found out and eventually had to return these loans. And that's the thing at the end of the day. You're seeing a business president take care of his fellow boys in the club, boys and women in the club. I'm not going to exclude women from this either. Boys and women in the club so they can make their money. But the little guy and the mom and pop businesses or even the medium level businesses are suffering because the bailout that you put forth, the 2 times you've done the bailout since, have not helped them. They've bailed out these larger companies that are not rehiring the people that they fired or furloughed or put onto unemployment. Then I will push back a little bit and say the government is helping in terms of the unemployed. They're giving you a little bit more unemployment, but eventually that's going to run out. And when it does, and there's no jobs or businesses that have jobs, what are people going to do for healthcare? What are people going to do to afford their lives? What are people going to do to be able to advance in this society? And this is the inherent truth of any dictatorship. You create a large, lower income class, which you can abuse to work in terrible conditions to make more money for the ruling class. Exactly. That's how a dictatorship works. Mm-hmm. And you cut education, you cut opportunities, you present the fact that, we want you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And, we glorify the people that climb their way out, the occasional ones that climb their way out in order to keep the populace thinking, if I just do this, this is possible. But if these bailouts had helped out the medium businesses and the lower businesses, or the smaller businesses rather, these people wouldn't be suffering the way they're suffering. The people who lost their jobs wouldn't be suffering the way they're suffering. But you've got Republicans going, no, we can't keep helping those people, but let's go bail out the big companies. And why? Because those big companies are donors to their campaigns. So it is a cyclical. And if you study history, and Dorina, I'm sure you know this, if you study history, this is how revolutions start. The second you make the haves have way, way more than the have-nots, things get overthrown. Now, I'm not advocating that. As a student of history, I'm telling you that's what happens in any historical situation, especially in Western countries. We saw in the French Revolution, we saw in the Russian Revolution, we saw the Arab Spring, this idea of if you step too hard and push people too far, they will fight back. And this country is built on a revolutionary spirit. It is built on don't tread on me. So it is built on fighting back when they feel they're being oppressed. And I think that's why you're seeing more and more people show up to these protests, Dorina. I'm encouraged by that. You gas them out, 50,000 more show up. I think there was like 1 million people down there in DC after they had moved people out. The next day, way more people showed up to protest. And that tells you this is a movement that they're afraid of. The fact that Donald Trump is pulling the trigger on the military, it tells you he is deathly afraid of how this movement could overwhelm his administration.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't my people's be supposedly going to pay for? Wasn't Mexico going to pay for a wall? This little bitch built a wall around himself.
Yeah, the black fence around himself. Yeah.
No, and look, to add to a couple of points to what you just said, socioeconomic inequality is real, and it's gotten worse since probably I think the Reagan years, because the tax burden has been transferred from the wealthy to the poor.
Yes,
slowly, and it's gotten worse and worse. And again, as someone who's worked in tech, these tech companies are making billions of dollars. Facebook is the richest company in the world other than Amazon.
Yep.
Right. And I don't see Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't see any of them helping us.
Nope.
If you research, when you see when I talk about misinformation and propaganda, if you see a headline that says Jeff Bezos donated to whatever fund, it's bullshit. I'm not saying he's not doing it, but these people have figured out with their politicians how to evade taxes.
Yes.
This information is out there. It's just the information is being buried, right? People are like, oh, they're not going to pay attention because they're just watching, whatever's on TV, and they're on Facebook, and we can hide this from the public. But you can't hide this. Like that's the thing about, as much as some of these social media companies are dangerous, there's some out there that seem to be leaking out all these videos. And like you see, like imagine if we didn't have cell phones with video, how we wouldn't be capturing these things, right? That's a scary thought, right? So I'm glad that this is happening. Like I shout out to these amazing, brave people out there, from everything from nurses to journalists to our peaceful protesters. Like everyone out there is fighting the good fight. Like there's these cops in military are attacking teenagers. Right, like they don't care if you're like. There's videos of elderly people in canes being pushed to the ground.
The gentleman. That's right. He was pushed, and then the police guy who pushed him to the ground had the gall, when his fellow policeman was helping this gentleman up, he had the gall to go around the other side and try to help him up after he had pushed him down with the shield. The thing is, I know people are saying, there are good cops. And logically, in any situation, there are good people, even amongst the craziness, right? I'm sure in Nazi Germany, there were people who were Germans who were going along with the Nazi regime because they needed to pay bills, or they knew but they knew what they were doing was wrong, right? And so I think there are people who are members of the police force, military, who know that this is not the way they should be doing things, who are maybe getting orders from on high to, instigate these situations. We don't know. We haven't seen internal emails. We don't know. But there must be a number of good people out there who are like that black female police in NYPD Blue, who pushed back that guy who had pushed an elderly black woman to the ground. She got in his face and pushed him out of the way. And so I think there is goodness within. I think the thing is, we're seeing so many images and pictures of people who are police officers or military people, or even God knows what, like that DOJ force that says they don't have to say who they are or who they work for, that are indulging their power fantasies and physically imposing their will on other people because they can. The second those people start to fight back, and I mean with weapons or guns or whatever, this whole conversation is going to change, and the reaction is going to change. And I firmly believe that there are enough people in the military who come from poorer areas. A majority, having served myself, a majority of us come from lower class areas because there are no other avenues to succeed or make money or get a decent job. You go in the military. It's an easy way to do it. You make some money. Hopefully you don't die in a theater of war, and you can come out of the military in a good financial position for your life. And I think asking those people to step into those same communities and kill their brothers and sisters or their fathers or mothers or aunts and uncles or their friends, I think I hope and I pray that the smarter gear kicks in that stops them. The conscientious gear kicks in that stops them. Jason Inman, who served as well, Jason and I retweeted Jason's tweet and added on to it about this. Like, you have every right not to shoot your weapon. If you think it's an inhumane thing to do, if you've been handed an order that you find offensive, it is in the military code that you can refuse to follow an order that you find offensive or inhumane. And so I'm hoping that there is not this groupthink or herd mentality that they all have to show off for each other and shoot their weapons and kill. And I hope that isn't what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's still like helicopters here headed to LA. I mean, that's the scary part. But exactly what you said, John. And Nazi Germany, it wasn't like every Nazi out there was this hardcore radicalized person that, hated, Jews. Like, it's a lot of those people were just part of that military, right? They were just part of that. Like, if you see Jojo Rabbit, they radicalize kids, right? Like they train kids to grow up to hate a certain, minority, a certain marginalized group. And that's the other part that I want to add about tech, is that there's definitely organized groups online that are hate groups.
Yes,
all kinds.
Absolutely.
Right? There's white power websites. There's alt-right crap on YouTube. Right? Like you guys watch YouTube. We have fun here. We love talking about pop culture and movies, and there's a lot of good content out there. But there's also content that a la propaganda, right? There's the Alex Jones of the world, right? There's people that are instilling fear because they're getting paid, right? Like look at the Meghan McCains of the world. If you go to Meghan McCain's Twitter, she's like, all of these people. That's the thing about Twitter, man. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Jack Dorsey is he seems to be doing the right thing. I hope he keeps this platform open for people. I hope he's a good person, and he keeps helping us, because Zuckerberg is not showing that. Nope. And so, but there's all of these people online that are helping radicalize younger kids to not think for themselves and to hate, right? Like, how do you guys think the empire was built?
Right, for Darth Vader, the empire, exactly.
Yeah,
they were taught to hate the resistance from birth. They were taught to follow Vader, follow Palpatine from birth. Once the changeover happened. And it's a great comparison.
And that's why I'm trying to encourage people. And I'm probably not the best to encourage, because I get so mad online. Like, that's the cool thing about Twitter, is that you can just yell at all these representatives, even though their staff. It is nice to see, Meghan McCain getting yelled at for being for her, spewing fear that's not true, right? Like, she's saying like, oh my God, New York is on fire, and then all these people are like, I live across the street from you, bitch. Yeah, it's fine.
I live in the same building.
Yeah,
I just walked out exactly the same area you did, and there's nothing.
Yeah, or the Garcettis of the world, right? Like the mayor is sitting there like he's in They Live, and he's like, people of LA, everything's fine, Black Lives Matters, while his chief of police is a well-known racist and who hasn't been fired, while they have funds for billions of dollars into the LAPD from 2020 to 2021, billions of dollars, while there's what about like how many homeless people are in LA? Hundreds of thousands? Yeah. Like, how many people are starving and don't have healthcare? But you're giving an already powerful enough police force more money. You're doing that to protect yourself. Yep. Right? Like you are investing in the one thing that protects you to continue being the oppressive ruling class. Yep. But I can at least call him a little bitch on Twitter. Right. But that's what's happening, and people need to be aware. And it's really heartbreaking for me to talk to my family. There's family that's very much like me and you, and tries to stay informed. But there's people that have no idea what's going on. I talk to friends in Arizona. I talk to my families in California as well. Yeah. No clue. They thought they think it's looting. Yeah. Like that's the message that's being put out there. I'm sending them these massive collections of police brutality videos, which by the way, I am collecting a bunch of stuff that I'm going with some friends, and we're trying to put out resources there so people can, be like, hey mom, hey dad, you guys aren't seeing what's happening. Check this out. This is actually what's happening. Stop watching mainstream news. Stop going on Facebook. That's not real. Instagram, not real. Look at what's actually happening in the world. And when you show your mom these police brutality videos, they're horrified and shocked. It's like they can't even believe that it's happening, because they're turning on their local news, and their anchors are complaining about looters.
Right. Yeah.
If that's not misinformation and propaganda and fascism 101, I don't know what is.
Yeah, agreed. Let's take a stop here real quick to address some of these super chats and Streamlabs that have come through. By the way, y'all, we are open for the Streamlabs and the super chats. Send them through. If you have questions to ask of me and Dorina, and I see some people already waiting to ask us questions live. I will have Wiley on in just a little bit to explain to you how some of you can come on to ask questions live. And Dorina is very kind to take the time that she's taking tonight because she's up there in Big Bear to relax and talking about this stuff. Oh, sorry. Up there, she wants to relax a little bit and do her thing. And so, I appreciate her taking the time to be on the show. Daniel Haygood donated. So he said, John, I really admired you using your platform to engage in productive discussion. You are not trying to avoid an uncomfortable topic, but are greeting it head on. Keep on keeping on. Well, that's all I know how to do it, so that's how I work. Andrew Hale donated. Thank you, Andrew. That's an incredible amount that you've donated. I can only make it for this short while. Thanks for coming by, Dorina. Two passionate, moving, loving Latinos that aren't afraid to speak their mind and for representing diversity in this movie space. Going to be a great show. Hashtag Latinos, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And Soulshire wants to know, Soulshire 1999 says, what's the craziest thing you've seen so far? A black journalist live on air being arrested by Minneapolis police and the yellow cab police undercover taxi were particularly scary developments. Yeah, Dorina, is there something scary? What's the scariest thing you've seen so far?
I guess two answers to that. Just personally, from like a open your eyes type thing, was probably since everybody's sheltered in their homes and they don't know what's going on in the city, to just leave your house and drive somewhere under curfew and see everything vandalized and looking dystopian almost, but then clearly seeing your friends out in peaceful protests. And, apparently I heard Coy got tear gas. I'm not
was
sure.
Was he out there protesting?
Yeah, I mean, most people are now. Most people are wanting to help, right? Yeah. So, but to see that, and then the fact that there's all this looting and my friends in Santa Monica that own businesses there, they had no idea what's going on because they were there to fight the looters, right? And they said they were violent, and those are not the same group as the protesters around the world. These are separate groups, and what's scary is that I don't know, are they paid? Are they, some of them, of course, are people that are just angry, rightfully so, because of what's going on, without trying to, nobody's saying destroy anything. But then some of these groups are also white supremacist groups. And that's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
That means that they've infiltrated, and they definitely infiltrated law enforcement, and they've infiltrated the FBI, and that's the type of stuff that scares me. And then just on top of just the videos have been horrifying. It's to see these teenagers and like cops were shooting at pregnant women. I mean, what is this world? It's just horrifying. So
I think for me, it was when they were clearing out the St. John's thing. And then they came across two members of the media and they unleashed their shields on them simply for practicing their First Amendment right to cover this stuff. And it was a cameraman who just had his and the shield slammed into the cameraman's stomach and then bashed in what was probably a multiple thousands of dollars camera. And and then hit that reporter that was next to him as well. You saw that guy getting gassed at the gas station. To me, that's what's frustrating is I'm seeing the police get upset at reporters. We saw the video of the young woman getting shot in the leg when she straight up is looking at the police person and saying, press, press, press with her ID out. And the police person just stares for a second and then shoots anyway. And that tells you that is a blatant act of an attack, of an assault. And so what we're seeing here is this attack on the media as well that I think for me is frustrating. Look, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you are. I don't. I think you have every right to feel how you want this country to be. You have every right to feel like, hey, I think these policies are not correct, or I think these other economic policies are not correct, or social policies are not correct. That's your right. But sending out the National Guard and the military and the police to at times purposefully instigate these situations or inflame these situations are not what the police and the military are supposed to be there for. They're supposed to protect and to serve everyone. And those protesters pay taxes. And those taxes pay the salary of those police people. So the police people have to respect protesters and the owners of the business. And yes, I know it's dangerous. And I know that that's a part of the, but I know that that's part of the job and that's what you signed up for. So to all of a sudden claim that you can lose your mind and shoot people random, shoot pregnant women, shoot children, or slam people into the streets with your baton or with your shield, who are essentially paying part of your salary, I find that to be a convenient narrative. You chose to do this job. You chose to do this job. It's not like a person who shovels shit for a living goes, you know what? The shit really stinks down here. It's like, yeah. You asked to do it. So you're getting paid to do it. Do your job. So I think that's the thing at the end of the day. I think there can be understanding that it is a very difficult job to do. Absolutely. But by the same token, there has to be acceptance by those people that I chose to do this job. And, you know, it's not just, you know, swinging around the billy club and driving around with your arm out. There's real responsibility here. And so I think some people are indulging, some of those human beings who are police officers are indulging their worser natures in these moments out of fear, out of anger, out of possible racism, out of mental health situations where they're just like unleashing their anger. All of that is in play here, I think, honestly. And I don't think it's a generalization. I think it's very specific in different cases. Yeah,
and this is definitely an attack on the First Amendment.
Yeah.
It's definitely an attack on freedom of speech, freedom of press. Journalists are literally getting attacked just for videotaping what they're doing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like there's all the journalists are getting attacked for doing their job and informing the people. Yeah. And that is it's fascism.
Yeah.
And people need to understand that. And I'm sorry, but Antifa, bullshit. Okay.
It doesn't exist.
Antifa does not exist. Antifa is a dumb word that somebody came up with.
Boogeyman.
Somebody dangerous came up with in order to confuse the masses on what anti-fascism is. Yeah. So if you educate yourself and you learn about what actually fascism is, like fascism is what's happening. It's authoritarianism. Yeah. It's oppressing. It's oppression. It's dictatorship. Like that's what's happening. So the rebels and the resistance in Star Wars, they're anti-fascist.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Because you know what? I don't like fascists, and I don't like fascists in any form. In any form, it doesn't make me Antifa, whatever that crazy thing that doesn't exist. There's no leader of Antifa. There's no kind of thing here. And you're seeing these pictures of young white kids all dressed up in black who are instigating damage and instigating property damage and trying to encourage the shots from the media on camera of like, oh, look at these burnt out cars. You know, I had a friend of mine who was at the LA protest, and he said, I saw the white guy smash the window and throw something in there to burn it up.
Yeah. And oh, sorry. No. To add to that, have you seen the videos of like there was a video of a white woman graffitiing property in front of cops. Like cops were literally standing there watching her do this, right? There's multiple videos of moments like that. Why would somebody write people of color are mad, like in graffiti? Like these people are like, they're not even smart about what they're doing, right? Like there's a lot of sketchy things happening, guys. So I would really, speaking to the audience right now, please be mindful of where you consume your news. Please talk to each other, because what they want right now is to divide us even more, right? Like how these people win is saying, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're a liberal, you're a conservative. We're not any of those things. We're human beings, and we're all citizens. We're all American citizens. We're all citizens of this, what is supposed to be the free world, what is supposed to be the land of the free, and they're taking our freedoms away, and they're trying to oppress all of us, not just one group. This is now an us versus them thing, and I'm not condoning violence, and I'm not saying destroy property, but I am saying stand up for what you believe in and talk to your communities and talk to people that you haven't talked to in 4 years because you got mad at who they voted for. This is what's happening now, and we all need to unite.
Yeah, I hope, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, for those of you listening, the first hour of this show, Dorina has been so kind to come and take a little bit of time and join us for a couple of hours to talk about this stuff. The first hour of the show, you see us pointing out things that are happening in the world that we fear is happening in our country, that it's changing from a democracy into a possible dictatorship. Certainly, that's what it feels like. What Trump would want is a dictator where he gets to say what he wants and does what he wants. He hates having to go to the court for his stuff. He hates having to go to the Senate. He wants to be able to just pass whatever laws he wants and whatever edicts he wants. And you see McConnell shoving in all those conservative leading judges onto those panels. And it seems to me like this is a slow moving coup over the last 3.5 years. And I think, like I said, I don't care what political side of the spectrum you are, but you have to follow the tenets of our government. This idea of you have to do, propose these bills, you have to look at these things, you have to vote on them. I think that some of the stuff is getting overlooked here as they move, as they keep moving the goalposts of what is and isn't required from your government. And it's incredibly frustrating overall for me to see it with. And once again, I'm not against any Republican. I'm not against any conservative who understands what the foundation of democracy is.
Right.
I'm against anyone on either side who doesn't understand that fascism in any form, whether it's Democratic, liberal, or conservative Republican, is wrong for this country and has always been wrong in any country.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a benevolent dictator. It doesn't exist.
No, and it's also not just the sad thing is that right now people don't know who to trust and what officials to trust because like what exactly are most Democrats doing, right? What's
I have heard
doing?
Nothing.
That's nothing. Like that's the sad part is to see, Friday night I think was the first time we got all those random unorganized curfew warnings, and Saturday to see what was happening, to see people getting attacked, and then all you see from Democrats is tweets, right? That's scary, right? I however, you do see some people speaking up, right? Like I'm hoping they're organizing. Like I don't know if you saw Mattis article
Jim Mattis,
on The Atlantic, where he's condemning these acts, right? He's never spoken out before. Do you know if he has?
No, not against Trump. I mean, he'd offered occasional, like that passive aggressive barbs, but he's never fully come out against Trump the way he did in this article that he wrote for The Atlantic, as you said. And of course, Trump, without missing a beat, lied and said that he fired Mattis when Mattis resigned, and then said he gave him the nickname of Mad Wolf, when in fact that had been given to Mattis back in 2004 by his own troops. So even in that one tweet, it's all misinformation. And that's why he's mad about Twitter putting this thing in there to say this could be a lie or fact checking these tweets, because then he's not able to lie to the American public and to his base these false narratives about what's actually happening. This is why he wants to destroy the media and turn them into the enemy of the people. This is why he wants to control the social media stuff, because he wants to be able to control the message so that people don't, and anybody questions it, immediately gets shouted down or embarrassed or called out or whatever. And any Republican who dares to go against him is all of a sudden destroyed by his own base, not just from the top down, but by his own base. And I think that's the kind of weird shit that's happening that at some point is going to erode our democracy completely if we don't do something as a people soon. That's the biggest thing is do not stay complacent and apathetic. Learn, educate yourself, because complacency and apathy is what kills democracies. Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump into some more of these super chats and Streamlabs. Dorina, we got one from Corey Scott Johnson. Did you guys see John Boyega in London killing it? Speaking of Star Wars, did you see that his speech there? Oh yeah, I mean, and it was interesting. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It's like, you mentioned revolution, and to see he was standing up for so many things, and you kind of saw a weird thing with Disney there, right? Happening where I think Oscar Isaac a little while ago was asked, would you come back and work with Disney? And he was just like, nope. Yeah. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, right? You don't know what how much crap they
they had to put up with, right? But the fact that John Boyega is saying like I may never get a job after this, right? like he's fighting the good fight, right? He's standing up for what he believes in, his principles, and his people and his community, who's obviously been oppressed forever, and he's doing what his character in the new Star Wars trilogy is doing. Finn literally realized the Empire is wrong. The Empire is doing bad things. And the Empire is attacking people, and Finn literally joined the resistance, just like John Boyega is. So be John Boyega and Finn.
There you go.
Be a good stormtrooper and get the hell out of there, man.
Be a good traitor. Traitor!
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And what he's doing. Let's see. We got 3 more Streamlabs to come through. Oh, wow. Alex, thank you so much for the very kind donation. Alex O'Neill said, no question. This week just wanted to donate to give my appreciation to both of you. As a white man, I just want to listen and learn how to be better. Oh, bro, I appreciate that sentiment. Listening and learning is not a weak thing to do. We all do it. We do it from birth. We listen and learn from our parents. We listen and learn from our elders. We listen and learn from our teachers. We listen and learn from our older brothers or older sisters or friends or family. We always are learning. So it's not a negative to listen and learn, which is all this movement is saying. Please stop for a second. Listen to what we're saying. Understand where we're coming from. And just maybe you might see reason behind our logic, and you'll join with us to make the systemic change which needs to happen. For us to become a better country again.
And to add to that, John, in every community, we all have to listen to each other, because this isn't just some white people are racist thing. We all were raised to be racist in some forms, right? Yeah. Like we like me and in my own community, specifically where I'm from, we had Chinese immigrants and people weren't that nice to them, right? Yeah, right. We had there's so many dumb things that we learn just from being kids, from watching adults use certain words. There's this type of person that's walking by us, I'm gonna hide my purse, right? Like there's so much not hateful outright racism, like different levels of racism, that we all have to check ourselves and each other, and we have to talk to each other and be better people, and always evolve into loving your neighbor instead of hating your neighbor with other people.
And I think that's what people sometimes can misconstrue Dorina's message. Dorina's message is get educated, understand what's happening here so that you can become a more united people and move forward together. She's not saying fight the other side and set it on fire and blow it up. She's saying understand what's happening here so that you can diffuse this tension and speak to your friend, family member, a neighbor, coworker, whatever, with all the knowledge, so that that coworker or person who's listening might hear some information that will change them around to understand why we need, how we can move forward together united. And I think that's what Dorina is really trying to get across here for people to understand.
Viva la revolución, but I'm calling for a peaceful revolution. That's what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. Revolución de paz. DJR said, some important quotes from The Dark Knight. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. And madness is like gravity. All you need is a little push. Who knew that the most villainous character in history can be right about society? I don't think he's right, because remember what happens in the movie. He sets those two ships against each other, and the people you think are going to turn that key and blow a ship up, they throw that key out the window, because they understand that even those prisoners understand there's a certain level of civilization that you have to adhere to, a respect for civilization that you have to adhere to. The Joker was wrong in the whole movie. And yes, there was panic and frustration and fear and all of that. But in that microcosm of a moment in the film, the things he thinks are going to happen do not happen. And he's extremely frustrated at the end. He's like, I got to do it myself, you know? So.
Well, and that's interesting to bring up that Joker and then compare it to the Joker from last year.
Yeah.
Because so many, I was talking to RB3 about this on my channel last week, because we talked, it's weird. I talked to him Friday, and we were talking about just systemic inequality, but this is before all the crazy violence started happening and misinformation. But we talked about how there's so many movies from last year, including the Parasites of the world, the Ready or Nots, the Knives Out, that are, you know, showing Sorry to Bother You, that are showing income inequality. And then with the Joker, they showed the same thing. Whatever you think of that movie, they were showing how many people were suffering in Gotham. And the Thomas Waynes of the world weren't even being sympathetic to them, right? Like it's an interesting different spin on it that I was very impressed by. Like that's one of the things I liked about that movie. And it's just, I would never condone violence, and I would never say, you know, the things that the Joker or his cronies or whomever does, like those are not good things. But I can still understand the pain and suffering that somebody has gone through in their lives or is going through, and whether they never got help from anyone, especially their government, and why they would revolt, right? The point is that now we have to revolt peacefully. Yeah,
exactly. Alejandro donated and said, I get what you are saying, but just like how most protesters are peaceful, most cops are not bad. My wife is a cop here in Boston, and I already worried about her before all of this. Cussing out cops in the street is not how we change the culture. I don't disagree that cussing out cops in the street is not the way we change the culture. I don't disagree with you on that. But when you step into a situation as a police officer to a protest, you know that's part of it. A referee gets cussed out multiple times by players and coaches during one game. Imagine being a basketball referee and working, if you worked all 81, 82 games of the season, you would endure a certain level of cussing out. That's part of it. I think that's part of the job, unfortunately, right? And so that is cussing out never killed anyone. It's when you turn and use violence, physical violence or weapons, that's when it's too far. Cussing out someone, I know it's not easy, and it probably hurts you to have your wife cussed out like that, and I totally understand that. I would kill him. I wouldn't kill somebody, but I would hurt somebody if they were cussing out my girlfriend. I wouldn't like it. But you have to understand that your wife has chosen to be a police officer. So I'm not saying she's chose to be abused, but she's chosen this profession, and that, unfortunately, is something she has to deal with in her profession. That's life. You know, how many of us get cussed out, not cussed out, but degraded or insulted by our bosses on the daily to feel terrible, you know, and we deal with it. That's life. That's the job sometimes.
And also, you know, definitely, of course, there's good cops. I've had family members. I know good cops. Like, they exist. The problem isn't how many good cops or bad cops are, because there are a lot of bad cops. The problem is the system doesn't work for the people right now. And so even if you're a good cop, if you're, you know, let's say you're a young cop and all of a sudden you just started the job and you're with like your group of, you know, four or five other cops and you're, you know, you get a call from some rich white lady who's like, there's this African American person outside that's, you know, and then all these cops show up and you're with them, and then you see them doing committing violence against an innocent person. Most people don't stand up sometimes because they're too scared to stand up. That doesn't make them a bad person. That doesn't make them a person that actually is committing violence or instigating violence. But to sit back and watch is not right either. Agreed.
Mel Garcia donated something. He said, I'm very glad you guys are out here talking about the real issues at such a crucial time. You are two of some of my favorite fellow Latinos in the space, and it's great that you guys are leading by example and bringing light to the important topics. Well, thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. You know, it's always, they tell you, don't talk politics, but I think this has nothing to do with politics. This is a human issue, human rights issue. And that's the foundation of this.
And with so much misinformation going on, we have to talk about it. How many people are talking about what we're talking about, right? So we have to, you guys have to talk to your families if you don't want to. You have to talk to your friends. You have to talk to that cousin you haven't talked to that you blocked on Facebook. You have to do that because nobody else is going to do it.
Right. Andrew Burnett said, donated some. Thank you, Andrew, for the nice donation. You're very kind. I love listening to this conversation. Sending some love to our National Guard members who don't have a choice in this. They get a phone call and off they go. Stay safe, learn lots, be kind, and show some love. I agree, Andrew. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the person who is close to the Outlaw Nation. They got called up, and I am very worried for them. That person has been essential in the last couple of weeks, last few weeks, helping to establish the Outlaw Nation even more on the Discord and the Patreon. And he has been called up, and I'm very worried for him. And I hope nothing happens to him. And I hope he's not in a position where he has to decide whether to shoot somebody with his weapon or not. That is my greatest fear, because that is one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your service, and one of the most difficult things you'll learn to live with. This isn't the movies. This isn't the movies. If you kill someone, it is a cross you bear for the rest of your life, especially in a highly charged situation.
Yeah.
John Doe donated. Thank you so much, John Doe. Didn't leave a message at all. Just donated. Thank you, John. Ryan C.
I like that guy. He never says anything. He just contributes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Ryan C. says racism is rampant in the LGBTQ community. Oppressed groups need to come together to fight back against our oppressors. I can't speak to that, as I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community. I don't know if that's true. Do you sense that's true?
Mean, just seeing what's happening in the world, John. I mean, and the reason there's so many people out there, and why people are coming out even in larger groups every night, is because they're seeing the violence committed from police to citizens. Yeah, and they've been there. So it's a Black Lives Matter movement, but it's every marginalized group out there is coming out and supporting this, because they have also suffered at the hands of our oppressors, which is currently the government. The government of the U.S. is oppressing citizens, and that's why people are doing it. And so, if you've been marginalized before in any way before, you understand that that's wrong, and you stand up for it.
Yeah, I agree. And the new the announcement was getting Michael Vogel, who is my fellow geek buddy on that show. He's a proud gay man. He said that the Pride has now become a Black Lives Matter. They've come together to make the Pride movement a Black Lives Matter movement this year for that particular reason, solidarity. Right. In that way.
Which, by the way, to add really quick, I believe there is a planned protest by the LGBT community to support the Black Lives Matter movement in Los Angeles, I believe June 14th. So this isn't what did they say? It's a marathon sprint. Yeah. Like I forget what the idiom in English is, but but there's going to be protests every day, guys. There's going to be protests for a long time until things keep changing, and people are going to. We're going to have to keep donating. We're going to have to the ACLU to all these information, to all of these actual good legal organizations that are helping our journalists, that are helping our people that are in jails, and people aren't even being read their rights. People are just getting treated like animals. Like, it's scary shit.
You saw that in New York, that gentleman who said, it came out and said, I was let out. I had no idea how it happened. I had no idea what was happening. I was just let out with blood all over my face, and I was woozy walking the streets of New York, Ratson King. Hey, John, sorry I haven't been here in a while. Just know that I love and support everything you do. Much love. Thank you, Ratson. It's good to see you again. I appreciate you stopping in, man. Let me bring on someone live to let you all know you can come in live and ask questions for the next 45 minutes of the show. Let me bring on Sean first to ask his question. What's up, Sean? You've been waiting the whole time. We've had numerous conversations about this over the last few days. It's great to see you. Do you know Dorina? Do you know Sean? Introduce yourselves, yeah?
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Just hanging in here. How are you doing?
I've been pretty pissed off, man. I've been trying to help the cause. I have to say, shout out to the community, because I've been personally going through some PTSD from nonstop helicopters and sirens in my neighborhood the whole week, and I haven't been able to sleep while trying to be helpful. I cannot imagine what you guys are going through, and your community has been incredibly graceful and patient throughout this. So shout out to you guys, honestly.
No, I appreciate that, and again, shout out to John again for using his platform properly and respectfully. So again, shout out to you, John. I mean, I've been listening to you guys talk for this whole time and kind of just not sure what I wanted to say. But I just wanted to kind of clear some things up that I heard you guys saying before. That you're right. This is not a Democrat Republican issue. It's really not. Right now, I can give three shits about what anybody's political issues are. This is a human rights issue.
Yeah.
And until we understand that, we're not going anywhere. This is not going anywhere. Like, we have to really, really understand that all of us are in danger. This is a human rights issue. And the fact that the system is set up for this kind of thing to continue.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's what we really need to change. Because I'm hearing people saying, like, well, all 4 cops are arrested. Case closed, right? We can go back to like, no. That's like, justice is one thing, and hopefully we get it. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want change so we don't need justice tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what we have to strive to. And the thing about the Joker in The Dark Knight, he really wasn't talking about the Gotham. He was talking about our world. Because if you really think about it, all people need in our world is a little push. Like, if you look at like how society has acted recently, they're emboldened to say what they really, really think.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, people were just like, well, I'll just use the dog whistle to say what I want to say. And the people who I know want to hear it will hear it. Now there's no more dog whistle. They'll just come right out and say it how they feel and use their privilege the way they want to use it. Yeah. And it's just a little push. And these protests are a little push for people to act out, to try to change the conversation to suit their narrative. So I'm just, I don't know. Like, some days I feel more optimistic, some days I don't. But the idea is that, and I told us we had a Patreon conversation with John yesterday, and I said that change is only really going to happen when we make the corporations change. Right. Corporations in this country run this country. The three of us and everybody watching this live or that's going to watch it, we don't run anything. Yeah. Right? The corporations run everything. Let's just say how it is.
Well, I run the Outlaw Nation. I do run the Outlaw Nation.
Yeah, but you still have to give but you still have to give 40% of your money to Google.
To YouTube. Yeah, right, Google. Same. Just throwing a little levity in, Sean.
No. That's fine. But the idea is we need to put pressure on them because only when they feel pressure will they put the pressure on the politicians to really, really change things. Yeah. Exactly. And I want things to change. Not that Black people can have an advantage. I don't want an advantage. Right. All I want is an even playing field. Whereas if I'm walking down the street or I'm driving my car and the police come, I'm not afraid. Yeah. Like, I'm not worried about, am I going to get home tonight? Am I going to go to jail tonight for not doing anything? Am I going to get shot tonight? Yeah. Am I going to get beat up tonight? Am I going to get my human rights violated tonight for just being Black in a car or walking down the street or sitting in Starbucks or living life? Yeah. And that's what we want. I just want cops to be held at a higher standard because their job requires a higher standard. Mm-hmm. If pilots had a record of misconduct, would they still be flying planes? Yeah, exactly. No. If firemen had a record of misconduct, would they still be putting out fires? Yeah. No. And that's what we're trying to say. Police, we need police reform because the system is protecting police officers that shouldn't be police officers. And I know there are good police officers. Obviously they are. Right. But the system is set up to protect the bad ones, and the bad ones give them all a bad name. Right. So,
and to add to that point really quick, Sean, look at how long it's taken to bring just George Floyd's murderers to justice. Yeah. Look at how long it's taken. Right. We haven't even mentioned every other person every other Black person that's been attacked or murdered by a cop. Yeah. That's just one out of how many?
Right. And you know the sad thing is that imagine if no one was there to record it. What would have happened?
Oh my God!
They would have just filed a police report. He was resisting arrest. We had to take lethal force. He's dead. Case closed. No investigation. no nothing.
Absolutely.
And that's why police are taking the, not to say all police are, but that's why certain police don't like the press, because when they record things that they're doing, they're more likely to be held accountable if there wasn't no recording.
Right.
Because if you guys think, some people may think, oh my God, this is a more recent thing. No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you, this has been happening. The only problem was there was no cell phone cameras back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was just police, guy resisted arrest, or we thought he had a weapon. We did what we had to do. Case closed.
Yeah. That's the thing that people need to understand, who are like looking at this from a vacuum perspective of this particular incident and these particular protests. This has been coming for over 200 years in this country, if not longer. There have been attacks on black men and women throughout the history of this country since the slavery days. There have been charges trumped up against black men and women since the slavery days, since you could have police, since you could have laws passed to purposely make it very difficult for black men and women to advance in the society to the level of white men and women in the society. And look, pointing things out is not intended to make you feel terrible. Pointing things out are to educate you so we can make change. When you tell your dad or your mom that they fuck something up, you're not telling them so that you can have them hate themselves forever and feel terrible. You're telling them so that in the future they don't make that same mistake again. Just like when your parents tell you you're fucking something up, they're not telling you as a person completely from the head to your toe that you're a terrible person. They're saying you got to stop doing that because it's harmful to you or harmful to others. So, and that's the thing at the end of the day, people want to like put things in a vacuum, and they're not a vacuum. This has been happening in our country for multiple generations. Mm-hmm. Black men and women, they have history, they have stories passed on from generation to generation of the abuse they suffered, of the way they've been marginalized in our society. So all Black Lives Matter is saying is, hey, stop. Can we just stop for a second and finally make the systemic change we need to make so that we can all, as Dorina said, march back together in unison forward. People want to love each other. People, I think for the most part, people want to love each other. People want to feel community. People want to be friends, want to work together to build something. It's an instinctive thing, primal instinctive thing in us as a species. And I think when we mess with that and kind of cut off our left hand and glorify our right hand or vice versa, we lose. As a whole body, we lose. And that's what seems to be happening.
The people want peace is what we're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I want. I mean, I think, and I don't want to speak for, the whole Black community, but I'll speak for myself that we just want fairness. That's all we want. Yeah. Like, I don't want an advantage over anybody. I just want what everybody else wants.
Yeah.
To feel safe and go about my daily life and not have to worry about the things that some people just don't worry about anymore. Like, I want to get to that point. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but the idea is hopefully we do. And I don't know if we are, because like, we can't protest every day. I love the idea of the LGBTQ community, like joining forces with Black. Like, I like that. But again, I don't know, because we can't protest forever. And what is this really going to look like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now? And that's where some people aren't thinking that way, that far out. I am, because the more we get away from the protests and the looting and all that stuff, it'll start and then as we're going back to work and people just going back to the daily grind, it might sleep out of their mind. Oh yeah, that was just a thing that, a couple of bad weeks.
Yeah.
But back to normal, I guess. And I'm afraid we're gonna go back to that. I'm afraid.
No, we can't let that happen, Sean, because that's why so many of us are trying to help in different ways. Obviously, the protesters are out there, journalists, healthcare workers, they're still working out there, but there's a lot of people out there, not just donating, but creating resources to help. There's so many different ways that people can help. It's just that they don't know. So that's what we're working on, right? We're working on being like, look, like, this is how you can approach your family member and talk to them about this. This is how you can actually inform people on what's going on. That's the important thing, is to keep everybody informed on the fact that this is happening. This isn't a left versus right thing. This is all of us thing. Where'd he go?
Is this your Black Lives Matter black square? I respect it. I respect it.
I think
Sean.
so.
I can't hear anything.
All right, let me drop you down, bud. Wow. Let me bring Wiley in, one of the producers on the show. Wiley, what's up, bud? Good to see you. Tell the people how they can ask questions live. Come in the chat and ask questions live.
So, guys, you just saw Sean come on screen. It's pretty simple. Here's the things, though. So, since the show started, every patron of Rocha's gets that chance throughout the show until this moment to be in the StreamYards, to get that head start. That's the part of the privilege of being part of the Patreon. And definitely check that out if you want to know the more things about it. But basically how you do it is I'm going to be sending a StreamYards link in chat for you guys to check out. If you guys have any questions, just at Wiley Todd in chat, and I can kind of help you navigate through it. But just click on it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but don't be afraid to ask if you need help or anything. I'm here to help. That's what I'm here to do. So that will be coming in the chat right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wiley. I really appreciate that. And yeah, just as you saw Sean do, you guys can come in now and ask questions of me and Dorina live. I know Dorina has we've said about 30 minutes. We'll see how she feels at the 8 o'clock mark. If she's got to go, she's got to go. We will stay on with a post show and keep talking about this stuff and hear from some of you who maybe want to come on live and just talk about it. Just vent or scream or rage at the world, whatever you want to do, or just talk about peace, whatever you want to do. We're going to keep it open for you. Thank you, Wiley.
See ya.
Peace, brother. All right, let's jump in a couple more of these that came through. Oh, a few more. Sorry, let's jump in there. Michael Nip says, thanks for everything you've done this week, John, and hosting Dorina tonight. It's been really outstanding content. Well, thank you, Michael. I was very nervous about doing any content this week, but my social justice heart wouldn't let me sit on the sidelines, Dorina, to be honest with you. And I've lost some followers. I've lost some subscribers, some patrons. So be it. I've also seen so many people say positive things about what I'm doing as well, and that makes it worth it. What were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I mean, I think it's important not to stay quiet. And something that I want to talk about really quick that's related is the social media campaigns that have been going on. I find it very interesting that the moment that these issues started happening, these violent attacks on the press and citizens started happening this weekend, all of a sudden there is a Instagram campaign to block out, with black squares, your feed, and then change your avatar to black. And to me, I understand some of the people organizing the campaign, that was more so to highlight Black voices, which I think is definitely important. We should always be highlighting. We should always be, talking about this is Black creators that you can follow, etc. But this is not the time to dehumanize people. This is the time where we need the freedom. To me, means the celebration of life and being alive. So don't be quiet. Like, I know people are afraid to speak up, and of course always highlight Black voices, but your voice is important too. And so when I'm seeing a bunch of these people staying quiet, I'm like, that's what they want.
Right.
They don't want you to speak up, right? And so in scary times, that's exactly what oppressors want. So we need. I haven't done content this week because I've been working behind the scenes on stuff, right? Like I've been more of an activist in that way. But I wanted to talk about this with you because it's important, and that's now, like, we have to keep doing this. Like, don't hide. Don't it's think about somebody that's on the other side. That's not a racist person. That's not okay with this, but just doesn't know. And they're seeing a bunch of Black avatars and memes. That's not human to them, right? We need human faces on the other side, on our side. So the other side sees us and says, "Hey guys, we're with you. You're being attacked too. Your rights are being attacked too. So join us," right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Great points, Dorina. Absolutely. Big Al the Tank donated. He said, I loved you guys during the Rena, Riley, Rocha, Roxy days. After tonight, I love you even more. I've rarely been as angry as I was Saturday watching cops attack. I had to unplug and lower my BP by listening to music. what is a song that will always make you happier? Oh yeah, do you have a song you turn to make you happier, Dorina?
During these times, the first song that comes to mind, which is a sort of a reference to Jojo Rabbit, which everyone should be watching right now, is Heroes by David Bowie. I think it's a beautiful song about hope and the people coming together to be a hero, to fight for what's right in life. And in this case, like I said, we're fighting for freedom. Not Braveheart style, though.
They'll never take our freedom. But for me, it's always James Taylor. Whenever I get into the darkest of places, I can always put on James Taylor and it soothes me. Fire and Rain is the one. It's the first thing he wrote when he got out of rehab after his terrible drug addiction. And it's basically about his experience with drugs, Fire and Rain. And I always turn to that song because it talks about having to walk through one so that the other one puts out the fire, right? Having to walk through the fire so you can get to the rain that puts out the fire. And I think that's important to always remember. It always makes me smile. And then I'll go into his other music, which always puts a smile on my face as well. But James has always been the soundtrack of my peace when I've needed it in this world.
And by the way, since I've been DJing every Saturday, I'm going to, I don't know if I can do it this Saturday, but if I can, I want to do like an actual, like, hope and revolution sort of set list. Because that's like if anything, guys, like don't stay quiet. I also mean, there art, all kinds of art forms, whether it's film, whether it's music, that's what we have to keep us humane. Right. Like we need those things to remind ourselves that we're like, as we've mentioned a lot in the stream, is we're human beings. So don't worry about, seeing like, is this a bad moment to dance? Is this a bad moment to laugh? Right. We need those things. We need those things to remember our humanity, because that's what's gonna make us stronger and defeat the empire.
There you go. Haskell 420 he says, "Hi John and my evil queen. We're all getting emotionally drained, tired, disgusted at what we are seeing, and rightfully so. With all the videos of seeing cops knock down /hit /attack people, like in Buffalo, of the elderly man getting knocked backwards, falls and bleeds from his ear. Buffalo PD says he tripped and fell. It feels like we are on the edge of protesters finally losing it, attacking the cops who do this, which then, God forbid, guns get drawn, shots ring out, and shit hits a whole other level." I don't think we're there. I think we on the outside watching this happen think the protesters are at that point, but I don't think they are. I think they come in droves more and more because their peace is driving that authoritarian regime insane. Their peaceful attempt, just like Gandhi did, just like MLK did, sitting down, standing, taking the hits, taking the beatings. To them, they are doing it for the right cause. They're doing it for something bigger than just themselves. And so I don't think we're going to see, mobs of protesters all of a sudden pull out weapons and start shooting at cops. I don't think so. I think protesters are starting to understand actually that this is the kind of treatment they can expect or prepare for before they go to a protest. So when it happens, they will stay docile and get hit and get it, because the image looks terrible across the world, just like it did during the civil rights days, right? That's what turned things around in this country in the 60s with civil rights. When they saw Bull Connor turn his hoses on black people who were just marching peacefully for civil rights, when, mom and pop in middle America, white mom and pop saw that, they knew instinctually that was wrong. And that's when the movement for civil rights changed. And as Sean said earlier, that's when the pressure came on the politicians to vote in positive for change in civil rights. And I think the same thing will happen here once the protesters understand that peaceful protest is the way always to destroy a dictatorship or a budding dictatorship in any country.
And to add to that really quick, John, nothing pisses off and a wannabe dictator pussy ass bitch like the one we have right now, or authoritarian, then they want to see the violence. They want to see people suffering, because that makes them feel powerful. So Trump is pissed off right now because he's seeing more and more people coming out
Yeah.
and dancing on the streets.
Yes.
Right? Like together and singing on the streets.
Yeah.
Right? Like, did you see that footage of the large group singing Ludacris?
Yeah.
Move, bitch, get out the way. They're all
Yeah.
just singing in unison, people of all races, of all generations.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to keep doing.
I agree. John Doe donated again and then actually put a message here, Dorina. He said, hope everyone stays safe. Great show. Can't wait to finish it later. Heading back to work. All right, John. We'll be safe, John. Please be safe.
I see Koi's in the chat.
Yeah. Koi's rolling around in here. I texted him about what was happening, and he wanted to find out. Some people are mentioning Amy, that something might have happened with Amy, and I don't know that anything's happened with Amy, but some people were mentioning that they hope Amy is okay. So I don't know what's happened there. Good to see you, Koi. Kyle Beckwith says, hi, John and Dorina. Great show tonight. Love the perspective you two are bringing. Everyone make sure to go vote. Thanks, Outlaw. Yeah, absolutely. Please go vote.
And that's the thing right now, guys, that Trump doesn't want the election to happen. This is all happening. They're giving us curfew. They're keeping us in our houses because they don't want an election to happen. They're not telling us that some people aren't getting their mail. They're not telling us that they're doing everything possible. So come November 4th, we can't vote him out.
Yep.
So we have to keep doing this.
Yep. Absolutely agree with you. I couldn't agree. Listen, watching House of Cards now, I've watched it over the last 2 weeks. I never watched the show before. It is like he had watched that show and implemented everything Frank Underwood did. I don't know where Frank Underwood came up with something or Trump came up with something. It's mind-blowing to see the similarities with how they're doing. Same thing happened. Remember when Frank Underwood was going to get voted out, he created a terrorist attack. He intimidated governors or people in to close polls early so people couldn't vote him out of office. So you see this happening here, that they are setting up this idea that mail-in ballots are fraud. And then he goes and tries to register in Florida with an out-of-state address, which is essentially voter fraud himself. Trump does. So crazy, crazy stuff.
Liars and fucking crooks, man.
And dumb crooks. That's the thing. He's so dumb.
Dude, that's the thing that I've been noticing too, that like at first, it's so easy. It's, the assault on the press and its citizens, but like just having helicopters like above people's apartments all night, like that's a fear tactic.
Yep.
That's an intimidation tactic, right? Absolutely. Like they want us to be scared. They don't want us to come out, but they're being so blatantly dumb about it. Yeah. It's like we have like the dumbest villain in the movie. Like I don't know why. Like it's like if this was like Indiana Jones, like 5, it would be the dumbest Nazis we've seen.
The condiment king is our president, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean, this is incredibly kind of you. Sorry the StreamYards crashed for me. Thanks for the time for me to talk. Thank you, Sean. I mean, thank you, brother, for so many reasons, but certainly all this week, your comments have been incredible, and I've appreciated you sharing them with people. And thank you so much for that very, very kind donation. Let me see. Lando Cal says, my 2 favorites, John and Dorina. I just wanted to thank you both. Thank you, Lando.
Thank you, Lando.
It's very
nice
kind
avatar.
Yeah, it is a nice avatar. Kyle Grandonadio says, thank you for everything you've been doing. Very powerful. Love you both. # Black Lives Matter. There you go. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it very much. Let me see if we've got any more super chats that have come through. No, any more Streamlabs? No. Okay, cool. Let's bring in some people live. I want to bring someone in. I don't know if I've ever seen her in the chat, so let me bring her in real quick. Philippe, hi. How are you?
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Did not expect that. Nothing. It's just. I live in Australia, so it's like early morning here right now.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's pretty scary because my dad's American and he served in the military, so he's watching this from here. It's very depressing to see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, what's your?
Oh, go ahead.
No, what's your comment? Do you have a question for us?
My question was like, what's like the one thing you think Joe Biden could do this year to really or who do you think he should pick for vice president actually to like really unite the country?
I mean, Bernie, obviously. Like, I mean, I'm sorry,
I forgot you're a Bernie person. That's right.
Well, no, I'm a Bernie bro for a reason. Like, I voted for Bernie 4 years ago because he's been telling us this whole time everyone needs healthcare, and then this pandemic happens, right? He's been telling us this whole time the billionaire class is ruling over us. They're oppressing us, right? Like, it's systemic inequality. Like, but I don't see them doing anything to help us right now. It seems like I'm just seeing advertisements for them promoting for people to donate to them, and I'm like, people are donating to funds and good causes. They're not going to donate to a politician right now. So if Joe Biden was smart, he would have somebody like Bernie Sanders, somebody like Elizabeth Warren. He would have a VP choice that is that has progressive ideas, that's actually going, because here's what's happening right now is that liberals are actually being, not to use the word radicalized, but they're seeing the issues that they weren't seeing before, that us progressives were trying to show them.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. And so we need to unite those two groups, right? Like, and additionally, I mean, if I were Biden, I would quit and just let Biden just let Bernie or Warren run. That's what I would do. If you really want to get that asshole out of the White House, that's the only way to do it.
Well, he's ahead right now by 10 to 12 percentage points in all the recent polls.
But he needs to do more.
Yeah, I agree. And I liked his speech. I watched all 24 minutes of that speech. I liked it. But I agree. The vice president, Philippe, you bring up a great point. The vice president choice is going to be essential here. Who are you doing? Because I heard, obviously he was vetting Klobuchar, and maybe that's an agreement for her stepping down during the primary. But I don't think she excites anybody.
No, and she's done stuff to actually stop police brutality.
Right,
so, no.
right. Thank you, Luke Conley. Thank you for that. Yep.
I heard that she actually had an opportunity like 10 years ago when she was like the Attorney General in Minnesota to prosecute the Derek Chauvin cop, and she didn't. So like, I think that pretty much ends it with her.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a bad look.
Yeah, but it might have to be someone young because Joe Biden's like what, 77 or something.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if he brought somebody like Ocasio, Cortez.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't even tell you how much I would love that. I love AOC. Yeah, I know people got issues with, but AOC is a powerhouse. That woman will be president one day by hook or crook. I'm telling you.
She is for the people.
Yes. When they told her that they were blocking both sides of the Brooklyn Bridge, she tweeted, she goes, "What? I'll be right there." And you're like, oh my God, that's what you want. That's representative democracy. You don't 24 hours a day, you are at the service of the people. That's how it works.
Yeah. He needs to bring in somebody progressive, because if he brings somebody like a Kamala, like they're too moderate.
Yep.
And you need to excite the younger generations that want progressive ideas.
Thank you, Philip. Appreciate the question. Stay safe down there.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring this next person on, but he better behave. Calvin, you better behave now. Don't be trying to take over the show.
Hey. Yeah, I'll be all right. I mean, it's a pretty serious subject matter here.
Yeah. What's your question, my man? I can barely hear you. Can you speak louder or turn it up?
Well, I can turn it up. I tried to turn my mic down because of y'all. You know what I'm talking about. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to turn it back up real quick. Jesus Christ.
All right.
Is that good?
Yeah. What's your question?
Okay. Well, I just had a couple comments. Wow. Why was my face so big? One was about the COVID thing. Now, see, I went back to work at the beginning of May. Now, I've been out since the middle of March. And I work I'm a cook at a restaurant, been there for years. And it's a small mom and pop restaurant. And who here in Tennessee, who is owned by two homosexual men. And when we opened back up, bam, dude, it was crazy. Floodgates came in. Everybody's coming out to support us. We've been doing good. This past month, we've made more than we've made in a long time. I've been working my ass off, but that's still a good thing because it flies by quicker. Right. But so that's a positive thing for me. I mean, people coming in a mask, I wear a mask, I wear my gloves and stuff like that. And, You know, that's pretty cool. But the other thing I was going to say was, y'all was talking about the scariest thing about this protest stuff and all this stuff. Scariest thing to me is that I've been seeing through social media and talking to my friends that they didn't realize how like racist their parents, their uncles, their aunts, and everything like that. Because these are people from my generation who didn't realize how racist their family members were until all this started happening. And they was just like, you know, I never even thought they felt that way. You know what I mean? So that's scary to me because it's scary for them to find out that's happening to them. That they come from a history of racism that has probably helped perpetuate what is happening right now. Yeah. So you know, that's pretty scary. Yeah. But I did want to say something positive. Well, I mean, if you want to comment on that. Okay.
No.
I did want to say, Dorina, I like your dance party things. Your dance party
my
stuff.
my DJ Bruja party.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I wanted to know how did you come up with that idea? I mean, what made you think about that?
Honestly, I've always, I mean, music's my passion, and I've always wanted to DJ or create electronic music, etc. But because I started finally streaming on my channel, I said, how can I have a music show? And there's DJ software out there, right? Like there's DJ controllers, etc. And so one night, one week, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna DJ this Saturday, see what happens, and in times of crisis, try to make people happy. And I think dancing is one of the best forms of therapy, because you move your body, and everyone's sitting down right now, in your couches, stuck at home. So I decided to do that. And the first time I did it, I had a blast. It was so cool, bringing in different friends, which Rocha, I'm still waiting to see when you're going to dance with us.
When I get my endurance back up to dance for an hour, and when I get my fat ass back on an elliptical, I trust.
But that's how you do it. You lose weight by dancing with me.
I can't have a heart attack on your show.
Rocha,
no, and it was just cool
every day.
What?
Rocha runs like every morning. I mean,
you
do. Don't let him trick you.
Yeah, but it was really cool to see, because it's me and one camera, and then you got two other dancers with two separate cameras, and then you see the live chat, and people are actually dancing with you, right? It's one of the ways that we can all kind of party together right now, and we need that spirit. We need to keep that spirit alive. So that's why I've been trying to do it every week.
Awesome. Thank you, Calvin. Appreciate it. Good seeing you, brother.
Hey.
Peace.
He's
awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. What? Put it up again.
Oh. Right now.
There it is.
Oh yeah.
It.
Exactly.
It's happening right now.
V for Vendetta, man.
You're right. Peace, man.
What is that line? The people shouldn't fear their government. The government should be afraid of their people.
Exactly. Well, let's bring on Coy, who jumped into the chat. Coy, what's up, dude? How are you feeling? Look at your
hair.
Look at that hair. Oh my god.
I got my best Guy Fawkes going on.
I love it.
I'm working on my own gun battle, treason, and plot.
You really are that thing. What's going on, man? How are you? People saying you got gassed. You were texting me. You said no, it was you walked out and it was the whole street was full of it.
So my neighborhood got tear gassed earlier in the week, and there was like a lot of panic. So I went outside to help. So I didn't get like, it wasn't during a protest. I've been at a protest. It was peaceful. It was a very different environment. It's gotten better throughout the week. LA moving the curfew. People have been consistently peaceful. There have been plants. There has been some insanity, but when I was there, it stayed peaceful. It was beautiful. It was some of the best humanity I've seen in my entire life. But getting tear gas separately of that sucks balls, I'll tell you. And yeah.
Coy, what do you mean in your neighborhood? Did you come out because people were, being attacked?
I heard like violent sounds. I just heard like general cacophony. So I went outside to check on it, and I saw people like ducking and hiding behind shit, and I wanted to get out and see if I could help. And there's just stuff in the air. I'm not a scientist or chemist. I just hoped it wasn't. I just kind of just dove in to see what I could do, and my skin was fine for a while. It was a shitty experience during the moment, but I thought it was fine. And then today I think it was all the sweat. Yesterday, I marched for like 7 hours, so it was hot for longer. I got out there early and I stayed till it was ending. So I did 22 miles on a Fitbit, which felt good. But
nice.
But I think the combination of like the chemical not being completely off my skin plus the sweat, I've got like a nice funky rash going. So I posted a picture today more to just show people that like you can still get out there, you can do things, but not to think that there aren't ramifications. Like this stuff is happening and it's real, and it's. I just my Twitter has turned into a very different thing than it was a month ago because I can't be quiet anymore. I can't let this be a silent thing. Any video I see, I want to share. I want people to know what's going on in the real world. It's we can all be superheroes right now. It's not the time to talk about them. It's the time to be them.
Yeah, that's a great line. It's a great line, Coy. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, same thing. Like I've kind of held off politically over the last few months because I'd come to the thing in my head like, well, what difference am I really making? Like, who's listening? Is it an echo chamber? Blah, blah, blah. But when this started to happen, my natural instinct to post about political stuff, or not even political, human rights stuff, really took over in that. And I've tried to post over the weekend. I was like, my girlfriend, we're down to San Diego, but while she's going to the bathroom or she's going out to grab something, I'm immediately on my phone looking at new videos and either retweeting them or retweeting the comment or liking them so they're in my feed so that people have information. That's a great point. Have you been doing that too, Dorina?
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's why I haven't been putting out content this week because other than trying to, like I said, get together with groups to create resources for all these different communities to see how they can help out. We need to continue to spread as much real information of what's going on because there's so much misinformation and propaganda. So even if it's horrifying police brutality videos, we need to get them out there. We need to show the world what's going on, and we also need to show the hope, right? We need to show the beautiful, big masses protesting this.
Yeah. The way I see it is we all of us in our particular case have this amazing platform through social media to really cause change. And if we change one life, if we affect one person's opinion, if we can take the time and patience to learn ourselves how to be better and then change one other person, that affects change. And for the first, I was in self-quarantine for 83 days. I saw 5 people in 83 days. I've been terrified of this COVID situation. I have a fairly weak immune system because of a crazy tapeworm thing. That's another long story. But so basically, I've been terrified to go outside, and I've been going to the grocery store once a week at midnight, right before they close. I've been only seeing 5 people a week. One of them is a producer that stays on the other side of glass. I've been super careful. But the way I see it is 83 days in, I had to go from seeing 5 people to seeing 100,000 because if I'm dead in 2 weeks from this moment and I affected one bit of change, my life was worth living. This is bullshit. Like I'm done hiding inside. If COVID takes me out now, then I did some shit first. So I'm going to keep using my voice. I'm going to keep using my platform. I'm going to keep trying to cause change because this can't fucking stand. And I can't be a part of the complacency of silence a fucking second longer. So I can't.
Fuck yeah, Coy. And that's the thing. Like when people are like, oh, I'm being contacted also by people just in my different work industries with projects. And I'm like, you guys, I'm out of office right now. I'm not focusing on this. This is my current job is an activist. My current job is helping my community. So that's what's important right now.
Awesome. The lack of people, like the amount of people I lost when I posted Black Lives Matter, I am so glad those fucks don't follow me anymore. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of people I see hemorrhaging followers at the audacity of being not a garbage person. Yeah. It's just I didn't realize what a world we'd accidentally been able to cultivate, and it's been a really hard week for my like uber optimism, my like glass half full shit. It's like I'm really excited to taste the lemonade again because right now it's some fucking lemons. So I'm really hoping we can chip away at this problem and see the world again, because yesterday during that march, I saw some of the most beautiful pieces of humanity I've seen in my entire life. I saw people bonding in a way I never have. I saw like the tension that inherently comes from crowds, those microaggressions that come from being around and too close to people were gone. People would bump into each other and just know like, no, it's cool. Like it was just this beautiful oneness for hours and sweat and tears. And beautiful rage and beautiful sadness and beautiful joy and music, and it was the most I've seen LA have a pulse in my 10 years out here. It was fucking magic.
Yeah, man. Those the LA marches and peaceful protests are an amazing thing to see. Because I've been doing other things to help out. I haven't been there. I haven't been needed there as much as, but I might at some point, because who knows how many people are going to need.
Wear a mask and be as careful as you can.
Yeah, but the like families belong together marches. Like I've been to all these marches, and it's such a beautiful thing, because we're all stuck behind our screens and our phones. To see humanity in person, to see that human connection, to see everybody celebrating life together and fighting for justice and fighting for what's right. That's what reminds you of what's important. That's like we're here once, we think, right? Unless there's freaking reincarnation, right? So if it's YOLO, like we got to help each other out.
Yeah. I love that you're doing that, Koi. I mean, this is a young man's game, man. Go get it. I did my time, and I'm watching from a distance and donating where I can to help. But getting out there does scare me. I also have a compromised immune system. Over the last 2 years, I've gotten bronchitis 6 times, and my greatest fear is getting this thing and being unable to fight it off with ventilators or whatever, and leaving my girlfriend without me. And I would hate to leave this world without her. So it's like this, I fear it deeply, but I am like from behind the scenes, I'm championing all of you all that are out there and protesting. And it lifts my heart to see even more come out every day, to say enough is enough. And like you said, don't want to be part anymore of this, this joke that's happening and want to destroy it once and for all. So I hope that spirit remains, and I hope deeply that they don't go next level with these things to try to instigate a narrative that doesn't exist. And this weekend scares me. It really does, because I know this is where more people are going to come out and have larger protests, and I fear what they might do in retaliation, because this movement is so much more powerful than I think they anticipated or prepared for.
Well, there's as much as they have physical power right now, there's more of us than them. So always remember that. And yeah, Koi, keep fighting the good fight. You've always been one of the kindest, superhero type people to me. So thank you for what you're doing.
Ditto, man.
I can't wait to share Cape shit again. I'm excited, but for now, let's fucking win this thing.
Let's go, man. Thank you, Koi. Be safe,
guys.
brother. Great to see you again, man.
You too. Great to see you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
What a good guy. What a good guy. It's very kind of him to take the time to come in here too to talk to us. I have one last Streamlab before I let you go, Dorina, if that's okay. Wayne Edwards said, after this talk with Brother Rocha, I will now follow Dorina from this day forward. I dig the way both of you think. Thank you for not being uneasy with being quote unquote political. Some other YouTubers I follow aren't as brave. Dorina and John, you inspire me. Well, it's very kind. Thank you so much.
Sweet. We gotta do it, man.
Yeah, we gotta, and I think that these 2 hours have flown by. Yeah. And Dorina, I can't thank you enough for being a part of the show today, and answering everybody's questions and talking with people, and giving your own unique perspective. Can I bring in one more person before you go?
Sure.
Okay, Brennan, what's up, dude? I know you're back. Can you?
Hi, Dorina. Big fan.
Hi.
Big fan of yours. I'm doing good. I actually have a question. So I'm trying to write a novel right now. The main character is Latina. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to be inclusive in their writing? It's a science fiction story, which is set far in the future. Do you have any advice for how to write diversity in a way that is not forced, but in a way where it feels like it's being respectful, I think.
Right. I mean, when so it doesn't become like, I guess it's tokenism, the word to use. Yeah. So it becomes I mean, I think that if you consume content that's outside of the stereotypical Latina, in this case, that's what you're trying to write, as much as I think Modern Family funny, like Sofia Vergara's character is very stereotypical, right? So if you watch things outside of that, like a show like Los Spookies, the HBO Spanish show. That's a fantastic show that shows very diverse group of Latino men and women, and Latinos and Latinas, and I guess you kids call them Latinxes. Now I'm too old for that shit.
I'm too old for that shit.
Well, I'm too old for that too. So.
Yeah, but so consuming content like that, I think will help you, see different probably characteristics outside of stereotypes. And then just talk to people like me, right? Like, in your own circle, just ask questions. Just say, would somebody with this background do or say something like that? Like just talking to people is always helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yes, thanks.
Thank you,
man.
And
that's awesome that you're writing it. Good luck on that. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for representing us, Brendan. Respect, man. One last one. Hey, Rocha and Dorina, thanks for the show tonight. # Black Lives Matter. This is from Ryan Chandler. I'm glad that the Outlaw Nation is speaking the truth and I'm listening. You are doing great work and it's not just an echo chamber. Keep your voices loud. Signed, the director. Oh, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Director Alan Smith, who usually comes on. It's great to see him. And I like this one. Haskell says, when's the Outlaw on the Bandida show debuting?
It's amazing. La Bandida. I love that.
Listen, Dorina and I have talked about it. This kind of put a little bit of a delay on our conversation, but certainly we have talked about the idea of doing a show. I talked about doing something called Unleashed, and I think it would be fun to do a show with Dorina and I, just kind of doing something like this. And this maybe was a dry run for what we may come up with down the road, because both of us can be geek oriented and politically active, or human active, for lack of a better term, to create something positive and have open conversation and dialogue about what some people consider difficult topics, but which I think we can both navigate to present both sides and present our opinions in a cohesive manner. So this is something we've kicked around, and so don't count us out yet. The Outlaw and the Bandida sounds fun, actually.
I am down to have a show maybe called La Revolución.
I kind of like that, to be honest with you.
Now's not the time to be shy and and avoid these topics. So I am down, and I love working with you. When we were doing Collider Live, whenever you would come and be a guest, like, I always had a blast with you. I love how eloquent and honest you are about things, and I'm always happy to do something like this, especially if we're informing people and trying to help the cause.
I love it too. La Revolución. I like that idea. All right. Well, Dorina, please tell people what you got going on, where they can find you and everything you're doing, please.
If you want to find me on social media yelling at politicians, I am on Twitter at Evil Dorina. I'm also on Instagram trying to at Evil Dorina, trying to have my followers that are on Facebook and inform them there. So you will also see me be a little angry bitch there. And if you actually want to see content like this, I have my own YouTube channel, which is called Bad Bruja. That's a bad witch in Spanish, because I am bad at spells. So I am streaming with guest friends of all kinds, and I am also DJing if you ever want to dance the rage away with us.
Yeah, there you go. Follow her on everything she does. Listen, Dorina is an incredible person. One of the people that when I immediately met her, I was like, okay, this is a formidable person who has a good heart and has a drive to do what's right in an age and in a sphere where people are trying to not upset people or step on toes, and so they can keep their followers and keep their brand. Dorina is one of those that has no qualms about speaking her truth, and I've always respected that as a Latino, as an East Coast boy, and just as a human being who had a mother and sister just like this. I totally relate to her approach to the world. So Dorina, thank you so much for taking the time. Go rest, go do what you need to do, and hopefully we'll see each other soon in another situation like this.
Definitely, John. Thank you for having me. Everyone out there, I know times are scary, and I'm scared too, but I'm becoming more hopeful. Seek out the good news too. There's a lot of good news out there. Yes. Seek out both. Keep yourself informed, and fuck Donald Trump. This is our country, not his.
Ew. Well said. Well said. All right, I love you. Take care of yourself.
Bye, guys.
Well, text soon. There you go. That was Dorina Arellano. So incredible of her to take the time to come hang out with us. And just to let her know, Dorina, you can go ahead and exit out, and you're good to go. And we're back. We're gonna do a little post show thing for people who want to stick around and talk for a little bit. Sean, you want to come in? Yeah. How do you feel? You want to come in, or are you cool chilling outside?
No, I'm good. I'm cool. I can hang.
Okay. What do you think?
Sorry, it was weird. It was a great conversation. I don't know what happened. Like for me, it was just like you all went black, and then it was weird. So. No. I was talking about when I was on before. When I was on.
Yeah. But you're saying
it was a great conversation. It was a great conversation, and again, it's nice to have conversations at this point because a lot of people are waking up from their slumber in their bubble, and they need to hear these conversations. Not that people need to participate in them, but just some people just need to hear it, and then and then they go from there.
Right. I was nervous about doing the show. I didn't know who to invite onto the show. But because Jay and Winston have been everybody's go-to or RB3, and Dorina and I had already been talking about doing a show together. And so when this situation popped up, I texted her. I was like, "Hey, would you want to come on? I'm not doing it on Tuesday night. I have time Thursday night. Would you want to come on?" And she's like, "Absolutely. If it means we can speak about what's happening, I would love to come on." And so, my fear is always like, oh, people are going to, stop following me. People, I've seen that before. Whenever I speak out politically, some people get upset, or speak out for human rights, some people get upset. And Coy just said, like, he put hashtag Black Lives Matter. He lost so many people. And that to me is unfortunate situation. And I don't say screw them because I think it's important to keep your mind open. So I look at it as I lost an opportunity for this person to be educated about the situation or to learn about the situation. And that's unfortunate. Maybe when I was younger, I'd be like, screw them. But now that I'm older, I understand that every heart that's turned can turn other hearts. Every heart that's changed, every mind that sees and accepts what's actually happening, gets educated or evolves. That's another mind that can evolve other people within their circle. And I think that's important. So, sadly, I lost the opportunity with some of those people, and maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll get educated in other places and come back. But that's the thing you run into. So, maybe. But, I should have just trusted myself because Dorina and I had a fantastic conversation. And, we can talk about all these issues in ways that are open and honest and vulnerable and also fair. And I thought we were very fair throughout the conversation, except to Trump, of course, but everyone else we were pretty fair to.
Yeah. Well, but I think for the most part, you guys are fair. You weren't like really preaching to anybody. You guys were just having a conversation. I think that's where the fear of like talking about politics and religion come from, because people feel like at a certain point you're going to be preaching to them. Yeah. And this isn't really a time for preaching. This is just a time for, hey guys, this is really happening. Yeah. Let's just have a conversation about what's actually happening and how we can actually, as a society, come together and change it. And that's, it's like what we were saying before. It's not a political thing. It's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. We're all humans, man. Yeah. And then a human just can't get murdered unjustly, and the rest of us just stand for it. So it doesn't really matter what your political affiliates are at this point. And if people leave you or unfollow you or what have you, it's unfortunate. But some of it really is just a matter of like speak. Because I'll be very honest, a lot of people in this country are born a certain place, live the same place, and die in the same place. Yeah. They don't leave, and unfortunately, that's the case. But to understand the world, you truly have to see it. Yeah. And if you don't leave the town you were born in, which a lot of people in this country, that's the case. Yeah. Then you only really know what the people around you. And if you don't have Black people around you, or brown people around you, or people in the LGBTQ community, then it's really hard for you to understand when you see things on TV like, well, that doesn't happen where I live. Right. I don't understand that. That's not here. So it doesn't have anything to do with me. Tomorrow's Friday, time, go back to doing what I'm normally doing. So, I don't blame certain people. It's just that if you want to learn, Now's the time to learn.
Yeah.
But if what I really don't like is the people that are silent. And there's a lot of people who are just like, well, where do you stand now? And if you're quiet, I don't know. I'm not judging anybody, but I'm just like really curious.
Yeah.
Because you must feel something. If you don't feel something, you're not a human being at this point. So, where is it?
Right. You got to ask yourself, what do you care about more?
I can't hear John.
Are you being quiet because
what happened?
You don't? Did it cut out again? Well, I'll keep going. Nomad I didn't see Nomad. No, he says Nomad donated. Here we go. Oh, sorry, Nomad. Nomad 24 or 204 sent in a stream live. He said, "Hey y'all, it's truly a struggling time dealing with COVID-19, and now this. My anxiety has had me at an all-time high. I struggled to see what I see and how it affects my friends of color, and I don't know what to do. But I am learning by listening." Well, Nomad, that's what you do. You learn. Let me drop Sean out who figures this out. That's what you do, Nomad, is you learn by listening. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. You have to learn by listening. We all learn by listening, by the way. This isn't just a uniquely white situation or person of color situation. We all learn by listening in anything we do in life. Coaches teach us, teachers teach us, parents. We're all listening to them to learn a new point of view or a different perspective. We're all educating ourselves at every moment of the day. Even sometimes if you have a good boss wants you to listen to what they are saying so that you can put that in action to be a better employee or sometimes to even be a better person. Listening. And so I say, no, I understand your anxiety. Trust me, brother. I get anxiety. Tuesday was a very, very rough day for me, anxiety wise and mental health wise, to be honest with you. Tuesday was a very depressing day, a very sad day for me. But you ride through those feelings and you listen. And in listening, I saw peaceful protesters out there, unwilling to engage in violence. I saw peaceful protesters out there coming out in droves. I saw peaceful protesters across the world, and I was listening to their voices. And that helped me learn that this is a movement that is stronger than people had initially thought it was going to be, that this wasn't a singularly all black protest, all black people protest. This is a multinational protest. This is a multi-ethnic protest, multiracial protest, multi-gender protest. And that speaks volumes because, when Americans get their mind set on something, we are a very difficult people to stop. Once we decide something needs to change. We saw that with gay marriage almost overnight. Once the country decided it was time to change that, we saw it overnight. Yeah, they're trying to turn back the rules now, but if Biden wins in November, that stuff will end. We saw with the Me Too movement, overnight, people were getting called out. Things were changing in Hollywood studios. Things were changing all over the place. So that happens once we hit that wall, things change. We can enact change as people. That's how this country was built. It's the foundation of this country, and so hopefully that keeps going from there. Let's see. Have we got any more? Did I miss anybody else? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody else. Socio-Economic says, "No pasarán, you shall not pass." That's what that is in Spanish. So I respect that. You guys have been incredible tonight. Thank you so much for joining in with me and having the conversation or listening to the conversation and enjoying the conversation with me and Dorina. I love that lady so much. She is so, she's just a Latina, just being Latina alone, I'm already in your corner, but having the incredible perspective that she has and having the drive and ambition and fight for the things she loves and wants to see happen in this country is incredible, and she's born in Mexico. She's not a born in this country person. She came out, and I think she's a naturalized citizen, but she loves this country and she loves what this country stands for. And so, she wants to see the best of us, wants to see us become the best of us. So I appreciate that madly. Yeah, a lot of you all giving some great compliments. Thank you so much for sitting in and enjoying so much of what happened here. Yeah, and a lot of people, I should address this because a lot of people have been asking me about this, so I'll address it now with Robert Meyer Burnett. You guys know that R&B was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago. And we had an incredible chat. So much fun. 2.5 hours. He stayed extra. Sorry. we're getting to that time. He stayed extra to answer questions and hear from you all and address your chats and everything like that, because Robert is such a giving person. And he told me afterwards he had the greatest time on the show. And you all know that after we finished talking about the Collider Heroes situation, where I got emotional out of sadness and joy that I was able to close that loop with Robert about him not being able to come on our tribute show to John after he had passed. He spoke about how he wants to hear voices from, he thinks that all film studios and all these places need to have diverse voices being heard and creating the content and getting the opportunities. So what happened with him on Twitter with RB3 was such an incredibly unfortunate thing. And I don't mean unfortunate in the lightest sense of the word. I mean unfortunate in the sense of tragic, because Robert is a good-hearted person. But Robert at times, and I mean RMB, can get too passionate, can get very passionate. I don't want to say too, but very passionate about what he believes, about what he thinks. And when he's challenged, he can lash, And in that moment, him lashing out at RB3 with those extra 3 tweets. Now, I mean, the first tweet is already offensive enough for him to advocate violence towards people who are looting stores. I get that impulse. You just don't want to say that because you don't want to add to the violence, because you can say this elderly black man, 77-year-old, this former police officer who was killed defending that pawn shop, that's another black life that is gone. But if you advocate shooting looters, those are other black lives that could be lost by people listening to that message. And those black lives, maybe they're looting today because they're young and they're angry and whatever reason, but maybe they see the error of their ways when they see the cost of that looting, and maybe they change to become someone else. Malcolm X was a criminal, a thief, a criminal, all kinds of stuff he got involved in, and he changed in prison and became, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, then eventually, a member of the Black Muslims, and then eventually branched out on his own to create a movement to include both black and white. So just because someone is doing something at a young age, it does not mean you should take their life for it, because they have the potential to eventually change. And I think that's where Robert was very passionate and went too far with his tweets, and especially telling RB3 to F off. That's not something that you should do. F you. That's not on Blackout Tuesday. An older white man telling a young black man to F you was not the right response. And, Robert did the apology. He apologized for it. But Robert is also very, he very much believes in what he's saying. And so I think that's what happened here. RB3 is a good young man who is building his career. Certainly intelligent young man. And I was very happy to be his guest on The Meaning Of. And I thought RB3 had every right to call Robert out on what Robert said, and what Robert should have done as an old white man on Blackout Tuesday during Black Lives Matter movement is listen to the young black man and hear what he had to say. That's the most important thing. So, a number of you have been asking me, to bring people on to the show, to bridge the gap, to bring Robert Burnett and RB3 onto a show and have them find peace. That's not what this show is for. Not that I wouldn't do that, but I'm not the kind of person that exploits a situation for ratings or for views, right? I'm not going to bring them on so that a bunch of people can watch this thing. That's not how I am. Other people are like that, as we've seen in the past, in the last 6 months, but I am not like that. And so I would not do that. But behind the scenes, if one of them reached out to me and asked me to broker the piece, I would absolutely do it behind the scenes and in private, because that's the respect I have for both of these gentlemen, that I would not use their altercation to get ratings or views or whatever from my channel. This is two people I care about very much as friends. So I'm proud to call friends who had an altercation online that should have never happened online. Robert, as soon as RB3 called out Robert Meyer Burnett, he should have reached out and immediately said, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. What happened here? Let me take the tweet down." Blah blah blah. Out of respect, this is an old young thing. Sometimes where an older man is telling a young man, "You don't tell me what to do." But cooler heads should have prevailed in the situation. But we also have to create a little bit of understanding that RMB, lost his head a little bit. And all of us have had moments where we've lost our heads and said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing. Unfortunately, on social media, it's a public thing that you're doing. And so he's getting backlash, and rightfully so. And him and Christian had the conversation, and RMB, to his credit, understood where Christian was coming from and accepted the decision. He didn't fight it. He accepted it. And that speaks volumes to the character of RMB. And people going after RB3 need to fucking stop. And especially people threatening to show up at his house. Any of you motherfuckers threaten to show up at his house, you'll see me first before you ever get close to him. That's for goddamn sure. You better put that in your fucking brain right now. Nobody touches RB3. Nobody. He's got a right to call out this older white man about what he said on Twitter. He's got a right as a young black man who has seen his share of violence. You heard him on Smart On Backstage when he said, I have no faith in humanity. I've never had faith in humanity. My heart, I almost started crying. It broke my heart so deep when he said that on Smart On Backstage. Because I can only imagine the kind of experience he's had to endure since he was born to just have it, just accept or live in a world where he has no hope for humanity. That is heartbreaking because he is a good young man. And I look forward to seeing what he's going to create in his career. Those are my 2 cents on that situation. So people can stop asking me about it. People want to clip this and send it to people, they can. But that's my point of view. So yeah. That's what I'll say about that. Someone in the private chat, I got on too during that show. Someone is Matt. Calvin. Matt and I had talked today, Calvin. We recorded a new episode of Top 10. I'm sure I'm going to have him on later on in June. I just don't think this is the right time right now just yet, but I will certainly have him on soon enough. All right. Well, let's wrap up here because I probably need a break. I've been doing shows for the last 6 hours, and I could use some time. You guys have been incredible tonight. Thank you so much for all your Streamlabs and your Super Chats and your incredible donations. Oh, Ryan C sent something. Oh, Ryan, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Let me go back and find it. I didn't see you send in Super Chats. Oh, yeah, here we go. Gay marriage was legalized, but homophobia is still terrible. Sure. Racism will be the same way until meaningful reform is passed. Yes, homophobia is still out there. It's still happening, certainly. And, turning back some of the regulations by this administration for people from the LGBTQ community has not helped. But that tells you that these are old school people trying to enact old bullying techniques. We are past that as a people. We are past that as a society. And eventually we will swallow them up and push them out to sea. And we will change this country because, as I said before in another show, America, whether you want to believe it or not, especially some Republicans and conservatives really don't want to believe this, but other people as well, maybe some liberals don't want to believe this, but I know this is the truth. America is a progressive country. Is it a quickly progressive country? No, but it is a progressive country. Eventually, the dam breaks and we do the right thing. Eventually, we make the changes. Civil rights reform, suffragette movement, gay marriage, the Me Too movement, and now this Black Lives Matter movement, if it causes real systemic change. Already we saw Garcetti, however you say his name, cutting what a billion or $1 million from the budget of the LAPD. Maybe other people, other governors, other mayors follow suit and make some changes and say, well, we won't make the change until you enact true systemic change within your police department for people who have 18 accusations of physical violence or 18 claims against them, that they don't get put out on the street again to police a community. That maybe policemen and police women have to start living in these communities in order to police them so they can create relationships with these people. So at a critical moment, a high pressure moment, they rely on that relationship to have a conversation to diffuse the situation, not escalate the situation. So hopefully that is what's coming down the road. So I think we are a progressive country. I think we move forward and make the changes when we need to. Civil rights movement, we make these changes. Do we as a people wholeheartedly just 100% change our mentality? No. Unfortunately, there's still pockets in this world who are racist, pockets in this world who are homophobic, pockets in this world who are misogynist, pockets in this world who hate people for any number of reasons. But overall, once we start moving towards something, we overwhelm the opposition and move and just accept it as a way of life, you know. And so hopefully that is what the end result will be for Black Lives Matter movement. We'll see. All right, that's it for me. I've talked enough. I've blabbed on enough. Thank you to Wiley Todd for for producing the show and navigating the show and putting out all the comments there. Thank you for Jake Iacovetto, stopped in for a bit and helped as well, telling people about the Streamlabs, telling people about the coming in live. And thank you to Sean Barreto, someone who's becoming a very important part of the Outlaw Nation, and I can't thank him enough for all the work he does on other things that we've got going on here at the Outlaw Nation. Hey, if you want to be part of the Outlaw Nation, if you want to be a patron of the Outlaw Nation, it's right there. Right there, www.patreon.com. Like, I'm just bad with spatial relations, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, there we go. Right there. Patreon.com/John Rocha. There are multiple tiers going on there. We're launching new shows soon. I think we're going to hold off this week because of this whole thing that's been happening this week. Maybe it's not the week to start a new show, but maybe, just maybe, I'll change my mind. And that Criterion Corner, which is supposed to start tomorrow, will be on Do the Right Thing, which seems topical as hell for us to talk about as a possible first episode this week with everything that's happening. But yeah, we have so many things going on in the Patreon. We have Discords, we have Hangouts. Tomorrow night, for those of you who usually know, we do a Blue Jeans Hangout on camera for the patrons, $7 and up or $10 and up. We're going to do it tomorrow night, so look out for that. I'll put the notice in the Patreon for people who want to come and hang out with us live. We did one yesterday that was on camera live through StreamYard, but I think I'll do maybe a Zoom one or a WebEx one where we get multiple people on so we can have bigger conversations with everybody and have great talks, which I enjoyed yesterday, hearing from so many people. So there you go. Please follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram right there. I can use both fingers this time. On social media there on Twitter and Instagram. Please get my Twitter over 35,000, my Instagram's over 20,000. I would love that. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel. And for those of you who are watching this live or watching this later, please hit that thumbs up button, give it a like. And please leave comments. The more comments you leave on any of my videos, the more it gets seen by YouTube, and it helps with the algorithm of the overall channel. So please leave your comments, leave your likes, give your love, and don't forget to follow Dorina Arellano at everything she does. She's been incredible to come on the show for 2 hours, and give her some love and support. And thank her so much for coming on the show. You know, one of the great compliments that every single guest I've had on my shows since I started the Outlaw Nation is they all say, your fan base is so nice. They're so complimentary. They tweet at us later or Instagram message us later and say how much they enjoyed us on your show. So please keep that going for Dorina. Tweet at her and tell her how much you enjoyed her on the show. Tweet her, send her a DM on Instagram even, or comment on one of her Instagram posts about how much you enjoyed her on the Outlaw Nation show. All right, that's it. Thank you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. If you're out there protesting, be safe. Please do what you need to do to be safe and take care of yourself. I want you coming back to enjoy more programming from the Outlaw Nation. And for those of you who may be serving, maybe some of you who are watching who might be police officers, or who might be National Guardsmen, or who might be members of the active military who might be called in, please use your best judgment in these situations. Please rely on your own conscience as a human being to make the right decisions in critical moments, please. Because trust me, killing someone is something that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. Clint Eastwood said it in Unforgiven, right? It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away everything he has and everything he was ever going to be. Think about that in those moments. So much love to all of you. It's been a rough week. I hope you've been enjoying my content, and I hope it's made you smile and also educated you and entertained you as well, and gave you more to think about in the world. I'm always available to you. Send whatever you need to send. Reach out to me on Twitter or on the DMs on Instagram. And you can also email me where I have my email on my Instagram there for you to reach out to me as well. And don't forget, tomorrow we'll be doing a live episode, I think at 4 o'clock, of Strong Style, me and Aaron Turner, our wrestling show. And all the proceeds from that show, all the donations from that show will go to Black Lives Matter as well. They one of those charities that Winston points me in the direction to go and donate to. I will donate there, whatever we get tomorrow. And we'll probably go extra long tomorrow, maybe 4 to 5:30, something like that. So maybe the Zoom hangout will be at 6. The Zoom or WebEx hangout will be at 6, from 6 to 7. So, all right, that's it. Take care of yourselves. Love you. What do you got? 7, maybe we'll see. All right, Strong Style. There it is. That's it. I got to stop talking. All right. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the Outlaw Nation.